everybody. It's election night in the United States, not in all states, but in very important states that are voting tonight. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. So tonight we will be, of course, following the elections. In New York City, we are selecting our next mayor. We're going to talk about that. Then also, of course, New Jersey and Virginia are selecting their governor. And in fact, we already have one winner there. That's the first thing we're going to look at first. Then also, California is voting on Proposition 50, redistricting measure. We'll explore that as well. And of course, also Pennsylvania is selecting the Supreme Court justice. So again, all of this will be covered today. Let me reboot this whole thing because it's very lagging. Take a look. Just a second. Just a second. I'll be back. Hey guys, I'm back. Okay, this is better. This is better. So I'm not moving like I'm, in some type of a dream, but we are in some type of dream today. We are following again the election. And because all of the polls next will be closing at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have about an hour to cover national and global latest actual news. So here again, we will be following all the elections that are happening across the United States and also national and global news. So all of this is prepared. I withheld the national or our news briefing, our newsletter tonight. So here you're going to get the latest. And then given the results, the newsletter will follow next. Hi, Ignacio. Hello. Hello. Happy election day. Right. We'll find out if it's a happy one. Hi, Michael. Some are saying Spanberger already won. Yes. Yes. Speaking of that, let's review. I have all the screens here ready to follow up. So Virginia governor has been elected. And if you see here, let me make it large. Okay, it's large enough. Great. So again, here, Virginia governor results 2025. Abigail Spanberger has won. As you see here, 55.1% votes went to her. Again, they elected their first female governor. Her opponent was Winsome Early Sears, a representative from the Republican Party. She got 44.6%. Of course, this is all still ongoing, but again, she has been projected a winner, as you see here, by NBC News. We can also check, let me check real quick with the with the New York Times. They probably have done already the same. Yes, they said 55.3 and 44.5 for Early Sears. So yes, she has been projecting. Those are results in Virginia, as you see here. And this, I think, really reminds me on the actual election, right? The presidential election, where you see the cities voting for Democrats. Cities are voting blue. And then, as we call it, respectfully so, Middle America votes red. Obviously, it has to do with, I would say, even education level. So if you are from Virginia, you can take a look here. Alexandria, you see here, she pretty much won everywhere. And except for Allegheny, this part, right? Let's see also other counties. Take a look. Oh, yeah. So you see, again, Alexandria, that's across the river from Washington, D.C. So the biggest locations or the biggest cities are voting for Democrats. And then you see again here, middle, Arlington, obviously, went more Democratic way. And then the rest is pretty much MAGA infused. And Brunswick is almost even. And then others are still counting. So Buena Vista, Campbell, Caroline, Carroll, and a bunch of other counties are still counting, but we do have already the projected winner, and this is the Democratic candidate, Abigail Spanberger, and she has won the election or as a governor. She's now elected governor in Virginia. So let's also review what those elections were about and are about, right? Because we're monitoring it. I also have 4 screens here from all the elections in the state. So we're going to see if somebody's projected a winner or has been announced as winner, they're going to come out with their speech. So we're going to tune in for that as well. CNN called for Sparberger. Yeah, everybody already called for her. So be rainbowed. Oh, I love that. Okay, where people lost their federal jobs as well, right? That's a very good point. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, you make a very good point here. Hi, Stephen Hale. No doubt that plays a part. Exactly. Stephen says, "Hooray, Virginia! Let's go, Jersey!" Right? And I'm gonna go that far as to say the New Jersey elections matters a lot for New Yorkers, because where do you think those National Guard troops would be coming from if Trump decides to send them our way? Okay, we have the bridges and tunnels community for a reason, and not all the ways are leading to Queens. Hi, Lynn. Hello. 11% for New Jersey. Cheryl 59.2. Okay, let's check their results. I think we still have this thing here, so let's check it out. All right, you have just to go up here. Okay, you're right. So Mikey, Cheryl 62.6% at this point, and Jack Settorelli, who called himself Big Daddy today, not so big as for Daddy, 36.9. Ha. See, the kiss of death of being promoted by President Trump. You know, what's worse? What's worse than that? Worse than that is only allegedly meeting J.D. Vance, because if he touches you next day, it's very questionable if you're going to wake up. So, and you see that doesn't look nice. That doesn't look nice at all. Okay, so Bergen is deciding for themselves, but altogether, I mean, if that's not a landslide, I don't know what is. Of course, they're still counting. Of course, they have Vic Kaplan, who's independent, and thought that with 0.3% he has a chance. But okay, all right. So Mikey Cheryl, by the way, former pilot, Congress, like she has so many accomplishments. And why do I know it? Because we streamed her rally where President Obama, former President Obama, was endorsing her, speaking at the rally. And she spoke as well, and she makes sense. And she, had very tangible and very straightforward propositions for folks in New Jersey. So, I mean, good on you for making the right decisions. And this is admirable, at this point where somebody can think straight. That's already an accomplishment. So, hi, Mike. Hello. Hi, all. Sorry I'm late. No, we just began. The line is long. So I made myself a coffee. Get a snack, get a coffee, or whatever you want to, consume at this point, but get it, because it's going to be quite a night. So let's talk about those elections. So perhaps you're not from United States, or you're not from those cities or states that are currently voting. So what are we paying attention to? Of course, there's some smaller, decisions, but the biggest one, obviously, a lot of talk is about New York City. Voters are choosing we are choosing our next mayor in three-way race between Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani, who is 34. He calls himself as Democratic Socialist, and he is leading the polls. Projection was about 94% that he would be winning. I saw when I voted today that a lot of young people are voting, way more than when I covered the Kamala Harris and her run or for a presidential bid last year. So many young people standing there in line and watching literally TikToks where they are getting explanation on how to vote and how to do this. And are you putting a dot or are you putting a cross? And it's like, don't put a cross. And they're literally standing in line watching those TikToks. And I literally saw it an hour ago. So, and this is, again, New York City. A lot of young folks are voting, but also a lot of minorities. I saw, for instance, Hasidic community being very much represented in New York today across the polls, which is unusual. You don't really have a lot of people voting, especially women voting. But what I saw, what really stood out to me this time in this election, that a lot of women, Orthodox women, are standing in line and voting. So Again, it differs at this point. Yes, the Jewish community is predominantly voting for Cuomo, but some rabbis have endorsed Mamdani in the past few days. So it does matter on what type of community do you belong within the community. But yes, altogether, people are in that regard are choosing Cuomo. And then young folks, obviously Gen Z and young folks are standing for Mamdani. So, and that will be a very interesting, thing to see what the actual result will be. Do I expect Mamdani to win? I certainly do. Will it be a landslide, 94% or not? I rather would not, jump to these conclusions too fast. And then whoever wins, then I will provide an analysis on what could be next, right? Because at this point, I don't like fear mongering or anything, but we will obviously dive into that because it's a good election to follow and it sets an example for other locations as well. Acid Morph, hello. I saw a breakdown. Women and minorities, especially Black people, are really carrying the dams this election, both in Virginia and New Jersey. Okay. At this point, I was talking about the New York City election, but very good to know. Thank you for commenting. Now, this is New York, and the polls are closing at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is about 44 minutes away, literally. Now, in New Jersey, we saw that the Democratic candidate, Markey Sherrill, she won, and she is now elected governor. Citarelli, her opponent, has embraced Trump-aligned platform in traditionally blue state, touting the administration's policies on immigration and taxes, which certainly was not welcomed in New Jersey, especially not in the cities that have the most population. So high-profile Democrats, of course, Barack Obama campaigned for Sherrill, and polls showed her with a single-digit lead. But in reality, we do see here that the reality looked hella different. Okay, 63.8 and 35.7. This is not a 1% thing. So that's what I mean. Like, we have to wait for actual results to come in, because a lot of people didn't vote, for instance, for primaries, right? In New York, a lot of folks didn't vote for primaries. Perhaps they were, independent voters, or, just decided not to participate. So we have to see what the results will be. Now, as to Virginia, a Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Early Sears faces now former Democratic Republican Representative Abigail Sponberger, and we just saw the results that she has been projected a winner. So good for Virginia. Good for Jersey. So we're starting pretty well. Now in California, people are voting on the Proposition 50. And this proposition is backed by Governor Gavin Newsom, and this would give Democrats a projected 5-seat advantage. Republicans have already enacted new maps in 4 states, like, Texas, and Florida is discussing that as well, for potential 9-seat gain. So analysts expect Proposition 50 to pass with national redistricting stakes high. So those polls are closing, if we think about Eastern time, at 11 p.m. Eastern time, which again, we still have more than 2.5 hours to go. So, and let's get into some latest news, okay, while we are monitoring the results. So let's talk about the shutdown. Trump broke his own record, and it's just getting worse, right? So the latest shutdown was 34 days. Now he's in it. Now, U.S. government shutdown continues. Unpaid air traffic controllers are missing shifts or taking side jobs, raising safety concerns. And this has been a big issue beginning Friday, essentially, because, yes, California had a lot of delays. And then by Friday night, altogether across the United States already, it went into triple digits in terms of cancellations. And so it got even worse over the weekend. Of course, specific airports are affected more than others, especially those hubs where people are also changing flights when they go to Europe, for instance, and whatnot. So now, Transportation Secretary Duffy, who's also kind of, having a side gig leading NASA, he said intentional delays are being used to ease workloads and manage flights safely. He seems very bandy and very stretchy, because that's a very big stretch that all of that shit has been intentional. Okay, so experts say that safety isn't compromised, but travelers should prepare for hours-long waits at airports including Chicago, Denver, Houston, and Newark. So, if you are traveling, please check out your airports, check out the delays, check out the cancellations. So don't just go blindly, assuming everything is well, especially if you are anywhere near or you're using those airports in Chicago, Denver, Houston, and Newark. Okay. Also, here, for instance, in New York at the JFK yesterday, the average delay was 7 hours, at LaGuardia, 4 hours. So, again, check it. Okay. If you are aware, you are well prepared. Ignacio says 50 is a slam dunk. Opponents stopped funding a while back. Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what we're expecting. Oh, look at the comments are popping out. Very nice. What chances Trump makes the shutdown permanent? Stephen, that's a very good point. And especially today, I got some more information on what's next after MAGA, right? Or what's next for MAGA after Trump, specifically speaking. And it has a lot to do with Vance and a lot to do with the crypto backup. I have to dive into that, and we will together dive into that on Friday. If you're Honest Plus member, certainly will get through that. And we will get into that whole breakdown because it's a very deep dive investigation done by several journalists from different networks and media outlets with the receipts. And essentially they're building some type of aristocracy that will then maintain the funds, because you have to follow the money. It's all about the money and whatnot. Now, are they having Trump's best interest? Possibly no. And this leads me to your question, Stephen. He will make the shutdown permanent when he feels that he's losing the control over everything, specifically his own party. Because a shutdown does what? It essentially unplugs Congress, right? When do you need that? You need that when you know that the Congress cannot serve your interests, or worse, it can hurt your interests, right? Because if we were to think about even 25th Amendment, who would pass it? It's not the White House, it would be Congress. So, see where I'm going with that? Let's dive into what's next. Let's see what the money is in that. I think the chances are big that he will prolong it. Because tomorrow, Supreme Court, right, the decision that Trump can stop tweeting about, right, which will give him essentially the right to use tariffs as a measure by himself without congressional approval, that will solidify him, his whole thing. Like today, he issued this memorandum, the change to the tariffs on China. As I reported yesterday, Trump's White House produced this sort of, a letter that can serve Make-A-Wish Foundation application, where they said, we expect China to do this and this and this. And for that, we're going to drop the tariffs on China by 10%. And so today, Trump issued this executive order proclamation changing the tariff on Chinese imports and decreasing it by 10%. But we haven't heard anything from China that they even agree to whatever he mentioned, let alone when they would be allowing for minerals exports to be unburdened by this tariff war. So we are monitoring it, but there's not a change from Chinese side, but there's a change from the White House. So he is tackling back. What this will lead to, again, remains to be seen. Certainly, he's waiting for this Supreme Court decision tomorrow. Stephen says there's also now some confusion whether Trump will set USDA funds, the SNAP. Yeah, and you're deservingly so furious, Stephen, because he said he's not going to use anything and he's just going to withhold all the money from SNAP. Hashmi has one lieutenant governor in Virginia. Great. Okay, so we do have results on Virginia. Morse lieutenant governor is Hashmi has won it. Okay, we'll check the results in a second. So I want to talk about SNAP benefits. Trump administration announced Monday that food stamp recipients will receive only half of their normal benefits, right? Which this month, due to whatever he orchestrated. The USDA said the program will rely solely on its contingency fund, which lacks enough money to cover full SNAP payments for 42 million Americans. Average household aid is roughly $350 per month. It's a household aid. Trump later defied the court order, writing on Truth Social today, SNAP benefits will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do, and not before. So he's not giving people this $175. Not even that. And you're deservingly so furious. In other news, Dick Cheney died today, well, essentially yesterday, at the age of 84. He's former vice president. George W. Bush released a statement calling his former running mate a patriot who brought integrity, high intelligence, and seriousness of purpose to every position he held. In addition, he said, I asked him to join my ticket in 2000, which again is very bendy and stretchy because we kind of know that George, his father asked him to do, but okay, let's let it slide. He said that he realized that Dick Cheney was the one he needed. Bush added that Cheney held to his convictions and prioritized the freedom and security of the American people. American people. Okay. Well, let's leave the starting wars and for which turned out to be fake reasons and never apologizing for it. But okay, I mean, let's pay our respects. Now, what I want to remind you on is that last year, Dick Cheney stated, quote, in our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. So, meeting the moment. Hi, Sean. Sorry you're late. Okay, that's fine. You're reading Cardi budget in French. C'est bon. Okay, I haven't read it yet, so please don't disclose it. I plan to analyze it tomorrow. That's my plan tomorrow. Bully's bully, Irene. Yes. And thank you so much for being here, Irene. Thank you for being the member. Okay, so Marjorie Taylor Greene was today on The View. And before we dive into what she said, first she was asked by the host of The View of, what does her party necessarily think about her actually being here? So take a look.
So, Marjorie, conservatives were criticizing you for coming on this show. I think you mentioned it already, that there were a few. And you called them, quote unquote, I believe this is you, mostly weak Republican men. So would you like to name names?
I think there's a lot of paid social media influencers. And I found it very interesting that they were the MAGA accounts, but they're all paid. And they all attacked me when I announced I was coming to join you ladies on The View. And I think that's very weak and pathetic. But when I talk about weak Republican men, I'm pretty much talking oftentimes about the leadership in the House and the Senate. And they're not getting our agenda done. And I've got so many bills. I have a bill you guys in New York would love. It would end capital gains taxes on the sale of your primary home. So if you've owned a house for a long time,
we used to have that.
well, we need it back. Yeah. But I can't even get it to the floor for a vote without Mike Johnson approving it to come to the floor.
So, yeah, and I mean, why is she here? And she was there to complain about Mike Johnson. And, well, in her own words, she screamed at him. Take a look.
Practically, I yelled at Mike Johnson last week on our GOP conference call. By the way, I'm missing the call today. It's going on right now. And I hope that Mike Johnson is finally giving a single health care policy because the country deserves it, and it shouldn't be a secret. And I shouldn't have to go into a skiff to go find our Republican health insurance plan.
Maybe
Honestly,
there is no plan.
You know what? You want to know something? That, I believe, is the truth. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of bills, but there's no consensus.
Yeah.
And I think that's a failure. I do.
Well,
Can I state something controversial, please? Humor me. Why are we constantly falling for anyone who's coming from that weirdo side and says something reasonable, and we're like celebrating them like they won, I don't know, Super Bowl, or they won Nobel Peace Prize, when they say something closely or remotely sensible or kind of, not that atrocious and crazy. We embrace them. We're like, invite them to the shows. We give them clout, as kids say these days, right? And I mean, this woman is nowhere near, by any stretch of imagination, she's not sane. She is not aware of everything that is happening. And to your point, exactly, that was my thought too, right, Stephen? That while she's not there, Epstein files cannot be released. And also, AOC yesterday went live, and I shared that video where she pointed out that Mike Johnson is refusing to swear in Grijalva, right? Or like she's waiting for weeks, and he says, well, she's not here, but she's there for 2.5 weeks, coming every day, asking to be sworn in. Why? Because she is the 118th voice in favor of releasing Epstein files. And The View is not asking about that. We're asking, we kind of humor them in their own campaign. But what Marjorie Taylor Greene does is building her own campaign within the MAGA world. She's trying to win clout within the MAGA world. She is not switching sides by any stretch of imagination. So can we please stop celebrating crazy people when they say something remotely sensible? Maybe they just had a moment. When a normal person says something weird, we're like, oh, okay, let me close both eyes on that, because maybe you're tired. Maybe you had a moment. Maybe she's tired. Maybe she had a moment. Maybe she doesn't get much clout, and she's using that exactly. So it makes it very difficult for me to celebrate the platform MAGA. Yeah, right, Stephen? Yeah. MTG can be trusted. She has an angle, but it's still a good thing. It's calling them out, right? Like, I mean, it's good. Invite her. Humor her. Like, okay, you screamed at Mike Johnson. Okay, great. How about them files? Are you going to vote in favor of releasing those goddamn files or no, Marjorie? Okay? Like, just bring it home, right? Bring it home. It doesn't have to be all for nothing, right? Love the Bulls, sovereignty budget. Okay, you guys talk about, let me study the Canadian budget tomorrow, and then we dive into that. So what I want to talk about is Hungary. Orban is coming to see Donald Trump, presumably on Friday. Yes, Trump will work on Friday. Believe it. But meanwhile, Andras Telkis, who is he? He is the former head of Hungary's Foreign Intelligence Committee, or intelligence itself, right? So essentially like our CIA, FBI type of story. Now, and he gave an interview. By the way, he quit his job, and then he gave his interview, where he shared that at this point, Orban's government is now fully integrated with Russia's foreign intelligence. Here's his interview. He's speaking in Hungarian. There are subtitles in English. So if you are watching on a phone or far away, come closer so you can read it. It's not a very long interview, 34 seconds, but I want you to watch it.
Tulajdonképpen egy politikai együttműködés alakult ki a magyar kormány és az orosz hírszerzés között. Ugye ez volt az az eset, amikor augusztus végén, ha jól emlékszem, az orosz hírszerzés közzétette egy sajtóközleményt, amelyben leírták azt, hogy hát tulajdonképpen Brüsszel és Ursula von der Leyen akarják a Magyar Pétert hatalomra juttatni a jelenlegi kormánnyal szemben, és másnap a külügyminiszter azt mondta, hogy hát nincs itt semmilyen látnivaló, mert teljes mértékben igaz az, amit az orosz...
Majd aztán a miniszterelnök is átvette a napi szót.
Átvette ezt a narratívát.
And he, of course, as he says, adopted the narrative. So do you think Trump will raise that on Friday? No. Now, on to Russia. Russia has expanded its draft. So what they did before, they drafted their meat, essentially, to be sent to the front lines in Ukraine to kill Ukrainians on Ukrainian land, right? Let's call the thing a thing. So Putin was drafting people in spring and in fall. So this was that type of a draft situation. But they changed their law, and now they will be starting January 1st, 2026, Russia will draft troops year-round, eliminating spring and autumn call-up cycles. Putin also authorized sending reservists to training camps, guarding critical facilities. Quote, Russia today, just like in 1612, is defending its sovereignty, Putin said. So he goes all the way back, okay? Make Russia great again and again and again. 1612. He's going all the way back. What was in Moscow in 1612? Who knows? Nobody cares. Nobody fact checks. Meanwhile, Putin again skipped the foreign trips, because I reported on that earlier last week. He was spreading the rumor that the Russians have encircled Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk. And he said, maybe we should have like a ceasefire just in that region so we can invite foreign journalists so they can witness how good we're standing. And then he said, I'm going to go there. And then he didn't. So he skipped the foreign trip, and he sent Oreshkin, don't confuse it with Oreshnik. Oreshnik is the missile, not that yet, Oreshkin, to the G20 in South Africa, right? So essentially he's supposed to go to, or he touted this whole idea that he's going to go to the front lines in Ukraine, make a big PR stunt. Instead, he said he's not going to attend the G20 in South Africa, but instead he skips the Ukrainian trip and he sends Oreshkin, his representative, to the South Africa, to G20, which, by the way, United States is not attending because we are against South Africa. All we want from South Africa are white Afrikaans. That they call themselves now Americans, okay, with the 2A. Now, who didn't skip the trip to the front lines is Volodymyr Zelensky. He visited the front line in Dobropilya, meeting with troops of the First Corps. And I do have a photo and all of them being lined up. But actually, why don't we just choose a video? Take a look.
Дякую за захист України і нашої територіальної цілісності.
So it has no translation, but he's thanking of course, the warriors and soldiers that are defending the homeland, and he awarded them medals. Now, meanwhile, there is a Russia-Venezuela cooperation going on. So, Russian lawmaker Alexei Zhuravlov said Moscow could supply Venezuela with the new Oreshnik missile. Now, it's not Oreshkin who went to G20. That's a dude. Oreshnik is the ballistic missile. And they said that they can send the missile system to Maduro to help him defend Venezuela from us, Americans, declaring, quote, I see no obstacles to supplying a friendly country with such new developments. Maria Zakharova, she's a spokesperson of Foreign Ministry of Russia. And while I say what she said, I repeat it, I want you to see how she looks like, okay? So this is a screenshot. So she's Foreign Ministry spokesperson. She's spokesperson for Horseface Lavrov. She condemned U.S. counter-narcotics actions in Venezuela. Quote, we strongly condemn the use of excessive military force in the implementation of anti-drug measures. As a broken clock, even Russia is right twice a day. But as I explained to you, all the roads lead to Moscow, and Putin is the one provoking Trump to go against Maduro so he can solidify his influence over Maduro and essentially get the oil that Trump really, really, really wants. Now, as to Ukraine and EU reports. So first, good news. They gave out grades to countries that sort of are satisfying the conditions, right? They're meeting the conditions slowly but surely to be accepted into European Union, which is, of course, the economic union. Montenegro, they gave them A, right? Albania, A-, Moldova, B+, Ukraine, B, North Macedonia, C, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, D, and Georgia, F. Obviously, Georgia is led right now by a pro-Russian party that does not allow for any freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of anything. So, European Commission praised Ukraine's outstanding commitment to integration, but urged faster judicial reform and stronger anti-corruption measures. Brussels warned that political pressure on watchdog agencies could slow accession talks. So, but then what Russia did is, not Russia, European Union did, because we're speaking about European Union here. They have been working on this summit. It's a European Union summit with the Caribbean countries, or countries in the Caribbean. And this is like, it's been in preparation for a year. They said this will lead to such a good economic enrichment for those countries. They were like, getting ready to host them and all this, yada, yada. Now, today, Ursula von der Leyen, right, the president of European Commission, and Chancellor Scholz, and also others, said that they will not be traveling to meet with the Caribbean, states or countries, because they don't want to, among all, anger President Trump, who has a thing for, Caribbean, folks in the Caribbean these days. So we're bending over. We again, so only 5 essentially European leaders will be, in fact, traveling to this EU Caribbean summit. So, and of course, we will monitor it. Now, Xi Jinping, he obviously left APAC, but he is back in, obviously, Beijing, and he's meeting with the Russian. And this guy here on the left is the Russian Prime Minister, Mikhail Mishustin. And Xi Jinping said that it's our shared strategic choice to uphold, consolidate, and develop China-Russia relations and make greater contributions to world peace and development. Now, meanwhile, all China does in terms of contribution is contributing Putin's regime, murderous regime that kills Ukrainians at their homes. So, now I talked about the EU summit. Okay, so some things that I called in today's newsletter and the news briefing weirdness, as you may have heard, there was a former DOJ employee who threw a sandwich at an ICE agent who's masked, and who knows who that is. But he was prosecuted today in DC District Court. Sean Dunn, the DC sandwich guy, as they call him now, is on trial for allegedly assaulting a federal officer with a sandwich. And Agent Gregory Lermore, that's the masked up ICE guy, he testified the sandwich, quote, exploded all over me. I could smell the onions and mustard. The defense countered that the sandwich hasn't exploded at all. Agents later, they gifted Lermore a plush sandwich toy and a patch reading felony footlong. I mean, what kind of timeline is that? Then another weird news, the leader of Belarus, Lukashenko, he's a little bala. So, and he's been there for decades, and he's not leaving unless he's leaving, feet first. So, he already has his sons and all this prepared to, take over. There's a 16-year-old son who's ready, to be the heir. Now, heir without the H, Lukashenko is thinking about selling fresh air to Europe, because Europe is allegedly a messed up country, because he says that, we do have only 10 million people living in Belarus, and Europe is nasty because it has too many people. Again, this has subtitles, so please take a look. It's Halloween.
Сегодня лежу над этим заповедником. Я по этому маршруту уже давно не летал. И думаю, какого черта мы этих европейцев оздоровляем? Вот то, что у нас в Беларуси, уже 10 миллионов человек не живет. 10 миллионов. Такая территория. Болото, леса. А это что? Кислород. Да. Мы кому это дарим? Этим вонючим, грубо говоря, европейцам, которые нас душат каждый день. И подумал о том, может, не в нашу жизнь, а вот.
So, and then he says, we're gifting this air to those nasty Europeans. Maybe we should charge them. Okay. Now to some quick national news before we go and check the results. Florida land restrictions are being upheld. A U.S. appeals court cleared the way to Florida, or for Florida, to enforce its law restricting real estate and land purchases by Chinese citizens, rejecting claims that the measure violated federal law and discriminated against Asian Americans. The ruling marks a significant win for, of course, Governor DeSantis with his boots and his administration, and could encourage similar legislation in other Republican-led states. But meanwhile, you do sell farms all over the country to Chinese, farms that are very close to our bases, right? And we kind of don't address the issue. But then somebody looks Chinese, now they're going to be prosecuted for what? For buying. And also, they're Chinese citizens. Are they dual citizens? Are they married to American citizens? Are we not allowing now marrying Asians? Like, is it, what's next, right? We're monitoring how people look, where they come from. I know China is our adversary, but we're on a slippery slope here. As to auto market slowing down, sales of U.S. light vehicles fell in October following the expiration of federal EV subsidies. And of course, we saw that Musk's Tesla has suffered from it. It had temporarily boosted demand for electric cars, right? The subsidies. But then, is it really real demand or no? And especially we're tariffing Chinese cars with such a big tariffs that we're trying to boost Tesla artificially, right? Seems like. Now, analysts say weaker labor market conditions combined with threat of higher prices from new tariffs could limit any rebound in the month ahead. Now, as to drug pricing deals ahead, remember Trump was telling us not to take Tylenol? Well, not us, but especially if you're pregnant. Don't take Tylenol, don't take Tylenol, don't take Tylenol, don't take Tylenol. What he ended up doing is tanking Tylenol shares. What follows after? I'll let you guess. So here's how they make money off it. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. No, this is a different one. Wait a second. It was a good transition. Wait a second. Come on. Anyway, somebody's buying Tylenol because the shares went down and they used this part to buy them, and then they give a share to Trump. I'm just looking who is going to be that. Anyway, but let me talk about Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are negotiating with White House to lower prices of their blockbuster weight loss drugs in exchange for expanded Medicare coverage. The expected announcement would mark a rare cooperation between pharma giants and the administration amid mounting scrutiny of pricing practices. And obviously, they're probably going to either donate to the ballroom or just give Trump shares. I'll find the company that bought the Tylenol producer. Now, White House Press Secretary Leavitt said that an executive order on elections is in the works to strengthen integrity. Remember, he signed this executive order that the National Guard will be monitoring elections in New Jersey and California. How's that going? And she says, well, we need to prevent fraud. My follow-up question is, when are you leaving then? Anyway, she's citing California's mail-in voting system as an example. Critics argue that the framing signals upcoming federal restrictions on voting methods. Also, authorities investigated bomb threats in 7 New Jersey counties today. And here, listen, and I tweeted about that I mean, we had those goddamn bomb threats when we tried to vote for Kamala Harris, right? Right. We had them in Ohio. We had people standing in line, right? And it kind of, those bomb threats always happen before work or after work, so people would just leave and never come back. And we kind of never investigated, not just, okay, those bomb threats were fake. And yes, rightfully so, some of you pointed out that police said that all of those were non-existent and were fake. Okay. Can we investigate what type of damage this caused? When somebody had that half hour to go stand in line and vote in the morning or after work, and they couldn't because of this, and their vote didn't count, can we estimate what did that cost? Because this is happening again and again and again. It's a MAGA ability and a tool to invoke and provoke fear and make sure people are not voting. And they're fearful of showing up. I mean, it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck. Hella, it's a duck. So, 7 bomb threats in New Jersey. In Washington, D.C., all flights at Reagan National Airport were halted after a threat targeting United Airlines Flight 512 from Houston. The plane was directed to an isolated area, passengers evacuated safely, and bomb squads conducted sweeps. Didn't find anything, but all the flights were, they issued a ground stop till 1:30 p.m. So all morning, again, nothing was happening there either, which again paralyzed Virginia voting. So, airspace warning. Duffy then replied that if the shutdown continues, and it's up to his party if that continues, into next week, he says that portions of U.S. airspace could be temporarily closed, further disrupting national travel. So in the morning, he says, well, all the shutdowns or whatever, all these delays are planned measures. Well, if you don't pay people and they stop showing up to work and they accept some, side gigs so they can pay their bills because you don't even promise them to be getting anything later, how's that planned and measured? But now, apparently, they want to close the skies over several states. Can I guesstimate these states are blue? The blue skies? I mean, do you have to be really smart to guesstimate that? Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, do you know where he is? He is in Korea. And, well, not just South Korea. He has traveled, here he is, to, he traveled to the border, essentially, between South Korea and North Korea. Let me find out the readout. Okay, so here, Defense Secretary Hegseth visited demilitarized zone, the so-called DMZ, between North and South Korea, underscoring Washington's intention to reshape the role of U.S. troops on the peninsula. His visit precedes high-level defense talks in Seoul. So again, he is on his Asia tour, and this was certainly part of it. Meanwhile, what he also did, Hegseth ordered that military personnel must obtain prior approval before contacting lawmakers or their staff regarding major defense issues. The move drew criticism from transparency advocates who view it as an attempt to restrict oversight. And obviously, if they can't communicate with lawmakers, essentially Congress, okay. So, but on the good news, remember Jeff Bezos had his initial family, and we kind of thought he kind of was a good guy, and then he got divorced, and his ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott, is making contributions because through this divorce, she got an immense wealth, and she is, so to speak, distributing it to some valuable causes. So one of those was yesterday when she donated $80 million to Howard University, one of the largest gifts in school's 158-year history. Mackenzie Scott, applause. The university said the funds will support scholarships, research, and infrastructure. As to military families, while active duty airmen and guardians continue to receive paychecks during shutdown, thousands of military spouses employed as federal civilians are furloughed or unpaid, creating growing financial stress across military households. And additionally, the Trump administration has begun detailed planning for a new mission that would send U.S. troops and intelligence officers into Mexico to target drug cartels. We can call invasion all the different things as you want. Listen, when I gain weight, I can say, oh, well, maybe I'm retaining water. Maybe it's full moon. Meanwhile, I just gained weight. We can call it different ways, but invasion is an invasion. So sources familiar with the effort said discussions are at an advanced stage, but not yet formally announced. Obviously, he will announce it when he's doing it. So, and to Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum said that unilateral U.S. operations inside Mexico won't happen. Now, she reacts to it, even as Washington expands anti-narcotics missions across Latin America. Sheinbaum emphasized national sovereignty and urged continued cooperation on security issues. So Trump wants to invade Mexico. So what is it now? Venezuela, Greenland, Canada, it's not off the hook, Venezuela, Colombia. Who else? Who are we freeing now? Oh, also Nigeria. Don't forget that we have to save those allegedly, very hurt Christians. Now, the White House confirmed that Trump and Indian Prime Minister Modi speak regularly and that trade teams remain in very serious discussions. Carolyn Levitt said that the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi. All of this aside, where are the results? If you're speaking every day and you're not speaking about, hey, how was your sleep? How are you? Did you poop today? No. Where did you poop today? In the Oval Office. Where are the results of those talks? I mean, what are the results? Are you getting closer? Are you dating? Are you moving in? What is it? Nothing is dropping. So, Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, right? Former, terrorist organization now. This is dropped and he's the elected leader of Syria. He will be visiting White House on Monday and meeting with President Trump. He traveled to meet with Putin last month, and Putin proclaimed that, we're going to be in close relationship, and it will be like with Assad. Turned out not to be like with Assad. Al-Sharaa returned back to Syria and said, no, Russia is not getting a hold of the bases, the Air Force base and the Navy base that they really, really want and really need for their exercised influence over Africa. But al-Sharaa said no, because if you don't give us Assad so we can prosecute him at home and publicly, then no, the chances are not good. So probably he's using Trump as leverage to push Putin. Now, what Trump will give for that, that's a question. So there's a crisis in Sudan. We have to talk about it. The U.S. is coordinating now, allegedly, with allies to end the conflict in Sudan after reports of mass killings during the fall of a key city to paramilitary forces, Darfur, right? Washington condemned the violence and called for an immediate ceasefire. 80,000 people were killed. There are, yesterday in the newsletter, I put out the satellite images where they see, based on, sorry for the graphic description, but bloodstains on the sand, how many people were murdered. And this is a very serious happening, and we don't talk about this too much. And I know we're busy with our own stuff, but still, we have to talk about it. Now, on the good note, before we check the results, we have 3 minutes until polls close. Europe's youngest prime minister, right? So soon to be, officially stated that he is prime minister, Rob Jetten. He is 38 years old. We're sharing the same birth year with him. And he is now becoming the prime minister of the Netherlands. And he's openly gay. He's engaged to a gentleman. I think he's a football player from Argentina or has played for Argentina, either way. And he has fresh ideas. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, he's not 75. He's 38. He has good ideas. Good ideas on NATO. Some ideas that we were so desperately waiting for. Now, please take a look what he had to say. Here's a full clip, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, but certainly worth your time. Take a look.
Protect our common European borders so we can keep our inner borders open. And let's be grown-ups. We can each take our fair share of refugees because many hands make light work. And now the question should be, what is the next good thing we are going to achieve together? And for me, the answer is clear. Collective security. We need a European defense ready to protect our own territory. And we've proven we can change quickly. And the Democrats know this. A united Europe is one of the strongest entities in the world. We need a European pillar within the NATO that can operate independently if and when needed. We need a European Minister of Defense. We must... Because we must stop shying away from our own potential strength. We are a peace machine that has entered a war operation, so let's act like it. Our new European stability is based on our will to look into the future together as far as we can. 77% of Europeans want a common defense and security policy, not a complete denial of the reality of the world. Europe gives us power and agency, allows us to deal with fear, gives us hope. And it's our responsibility, each and everyone here in this room, to make that heard. L'avenir, c'est maintenant. L'avenir, c'est maintenant. And that is exactly where we are. That is the spirit that we need in the upcoming weeks and months. Not to foresee the future, but to invent it. Not later, but now. Because the future is now. Die Zukunft is jetzt. El futuro is ahora. The Zukunft is nu. Or in the words of our European and Ukrainian friends, and I hope I'm going to say this right, my budne view zarash. Thank you very much.
This guy. That was nice. And he said it right in Ukrainian. Check him on other languages. Very good. The dude is not 75. He has energy. He has thoughts. He had good ideas. Let him fact check Putin. Do you think Buttigieg wouldn't be that? I'm just saying. I'm just putting this out there. Catch it. One of you had this comment. Grant. You said so many invasions, bigly invasions. I want to talk about those invasions. So, Venezuela, right? Putin provokes Trump to invade Venezuela or to scare the crap out of him so Putin can come in as this warrior and send the Wagner group, which landed, 2 planes with military equipment landed, and now they're going to give them a rationing that doesn't exist because Ukraine knocked out all 3 of them that did exist. Okay. So, here comes the Nobel Peace Prize recipient, Machado. I don't know what type of research Nobel Peace Prize folks are doing. What I know, it doesn't work. Whatever they were doing, they need some change up. Okay? Because last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, she was on Don Jr.'s podcast where she said, oh, make me a leader and I will help United States purchase all the oil and our national resources. Then today she came up with the new shit. Maria Corina Machado claimed without evidence that President Nicolas Maduro rigged the 2020 elections against Trump, a statement dismissed internationally but circulating widely in pro-Trump media circles. I mean, you're just like, are you getting those, like, I'm talking to her, like the readouts every morning? Like with the MAGA pinpoints, and you're just going to go, oh, we talked about that. Okay, talked about that. Next one. And then you go on podcast and just like confirm the propaganda machine. And we talked earlier about Nigeria, right? That Trump wants to defend Christians in Nigeria. I do have one point there because he wanted also to defend, Christians and stuff in South Africa. Right. And for that, he created this whole immigration special program. It's called Amerikaans. I just mentioned it to you right earlier with the 2A. Certainly, they're referring to Afrikaans. It's white people, white Christians that are coming, farmers also, that are coming to the United States. They don't have to pay anything. It's a straight up asylum, own land, screw our farmers type of story. But then here in Nigeria, we are also defending Christians, but we don't really have any immigration program. Are these people not wide enough? Like, can somebody have a certain follow-up questions when next time Trump administration puts out this whole story about defending Christians in Nigeria, aside from going there and slaughtering people, are you willing to let them come here? Immigrate to the safe United States where you can practice your religion in the open that you allegedly can't do there. Can they come here? Like the Afrikaans, the white people. Please, anybody, follow up because I am not in the pool anymore, the White House thing. So, but who backs Nigeria now? Check it. China. China publicly supported Nigerian President Bola Tinubu after Trump threatened to intervene military over attacks on Christians. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning warned against interference in Nigeria's internal affairs and affirmed Beijing's backing of Tinubu's government. So now Now you're going to go to Nigeria and China, because he just gave Xi Jinping another card. He had a lot of cards. Now he has another one that he can use against you. And he can make your life more miserable by starting to really limit the exports of those minerals that you need. Because China today also tied the support of Taiwan, by the way, with the minerals. So if US were to support Taiwan or to provide them with any military equipment, they're going to tie it together to the minerals deal. What a way to make yourself a hostage for no reason, like no reason. Come on now, no freaking reason. Speaking of Taiwan, this is what they did today. They did training, another training. As you see here, there's it's called PLA air activities in the vicinity of Taiwan. They were crossing back and forth into Taiwanese part, right? Or waters, and so China is trying to intimidate Taiwan. They also put out this whole thing saying we're celebrating that 48 countries are now enjoying unilateral visa-free access to China. Obviously, you don't see United States here, but you see Russia here, you see a bunch of countries, and they're celebrating that there are 48 countries and more to come. Okay. Russia also has a culture clampdown. Authorities in St. Petersburg canceled 2-day Halloween festival and moved to deport one of its organizers, citing the event as Western cultural propaganda. The move highlights Russia's continued campaign against perceived foreign influence. And there's a trade shift from China. Although U.S. imports from China have fallen sharply under Trump-era tariffs, global supply chains have adapted, with Southeast Asian and Latin American producers filling the gap. China makes money on the shadow fleet, with Russia sponsoring Russia's invasion. They also now have influence on Africa and Latin America because now they're trading with them and they're investing in their ports and all that, making the trade even more so accessible. And we're just screwing ourselves up while we depend on their minerals exports. Make that make sense. Like, this is just master strategy. I don't know what the hell that is. And remember, I forgot to tell you who is buying the Tylenol parent company that Trump made sure to tank. Kimberly-Clark, the maker of Kleenex and Huggies, announced plans to acquire Tylenol's parent company in a deal valued $40 billion, expanding its reach into healthcare and consumer wellness products. So Kleenex comes now with Tylenol. So you can put the Huggies on, take a Kleenex and take a Tylenol, and you're on brand. Okay, let's check those results. Let's update our results because the polls now have closed in New York as well. It's 9:07 p.m. For California, it's a little less than 2 hours to go, but still, we obviously had the results in Pennsylvania now as well. Let's refresh the page. So Pennsylvania State Supreme Court results, they voted yes. 73.3% voted yes, 26.7% voted no. Can we get a readout on what this is about? Expected vote is total number of vote. Okay, well, that we know. Okay, let's check New York Times because they have readouts. I do understand what it's about, but I want to be factual. So let me drop this website and get get another one instead. Share screen, New York Times. Okay, here we go. So what do we have here? Boom, updated races to watch. Okay, we saw that Virginia governor is gonna be Spanberger. She is, of course, a Democratic candidate. She won with 55.8% of votes. Early Sears is with 44%, and Virginia has elected its very first female governor. Now, Virginia Attorney General Jones, the Democratic Virginia Attorney General, has won with 51.2%, and Republicans 48.4%. New Jersey Governor, we saw that Mikey Sherrill has won with 56.2%, and Seattle Raleigh, aka Small Daddy, is 43.3%. Deuces. Mayors. Okay, so Mamdani is now leading with 51.5%. Cuomo 39.7%, and Sliwa 8%. If Cuomo doesn't kill Sliwa after this, or hurts him, that'd be very questionable. Okay, so we do have first results from New York City. And as I mentioned, with all this prognosis, it's going to be 94% landslide and all of this. You have to be very specific as to primaries. Not everybody has a say in primaries. Some people are independent voters. They don't get to vote. Also, people just don't decide to vote in primaries. And certainly we see those results. Let's update it real quick because that thing is close. All right, so the polls just closed. By the way, it's 9:10 p.m. Eastern in New York, so we just are 10 minutes in. Mamdani 51.5%, Cuomo 39.7%. So, I mean, it's a bigger lead than 10%. Okay, California, well, is still voting, so this is still to come. Okay, so this is what we have. Let me check real quick what the campaigns are doing. Because I do have a little. Okay, nail game. Let's see what this is. Let me see. Okay, so I'm tuning into AP, Associated Press, that still calls, the Gulf of America, the Gulf of Mexico. So let's tune into Associated Press because they do have reporters at Cuomo headquarters, Mamdani headquarters, and certainly New York is coming in with the results. So I think this would be a very interesting footage or, content to consume. We also have, I have you covered. I have more national and global news to cover if we have to wait. So this is not a problem at all. But I do want to check out this coverage here. They are discussing the results are currently coming in. So let's take a look.
In Virginia, like we talked about before,
Whoa.
President Donald Trump mentioning Jack Ciattarelli and doing these teletown hall type events for him, but not spending any time on the ground. In these first round of contests after Trump's return to the White House, kind of the midway point between now and the midterms, can we read anything into the president's decision or, maybe lack of a decision to really be involved so much in these campaigns?
There's been some talk around the White House that he did not want to essentially tie himself to any candidate.
I'm sorry, I don't like cursing, but what the hell are you talking about? AP? Really? AP is now bending over. Come on now. He took away your badge. You don't have any dignity. You're covering how Trump failed New Jersey election instead of saying, God damn it, this was a good election. Oof. Okay, whatever. I'm overreacting, I know. I just bought 1,000 shares of Heinz. Okay, Lenny, I think you're also enjoying a drink, which is great. I hope you all do. If you haven't yet, go check it. AP bites the right. Grant, this was my whole point. I was like, we can't watch New York Times, especially since I did the deep dive on them covering up for fascists during World War II. Okay, well, CBS is now Barry Weiss CBS. ABC is Disney. And they're also bending both knees and buying knee pads. And I thought AP, AP, how worse can it be? Well, here you go. What a shit show. Anyway, Lynn says Pennsylvania voters approved the retention of 3 state Supreme Court justices. NBC News projects preserving Democrats' 5-2 majority on the battleground state's high court. Okay, great. Thank you. And this is my whole point. I wanted to have a readout on Virginia, on Pennsylvania. Let me take a look here so I can produce something sensible. Meanwhile, we're going to dive into your comments, questions. Let's discuss it so we can skip AP's nonsense. Okay, here we go. Oh, New York Times is not tracking Pennsylvania. Very nice. Okay, so let's check the Okay. Supreme Court voters. Okay, so Pennsylvania voters decided to retain 3 state Supreme Court justices in their current roles, maintaining the Democratic majority on the court. And that's exactly what Lynn, I think, just stated. So yes, good for them. It's very landslidey. So 71.7% voted yes, 28.3% voted no. So very good results for Pennsylvania. And honestly, I mean, let's say give a round of applause for all the states, right? New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Virginia. Folks are certainly meeting the moment. What I really noticed and what I really liked, and this is specifically in New York, but also everywhere, people started giving a damn. Beyond the, what are you voting for? Economy. What economy? Well, economy. You know, like when people voted for Trump versus Harris, and they're like, well, he will take care of groceries. How? Oh, groceries. You know, it's just dumbfounded answers because we are not able to allow ourselves to dive fully into this I like him, I don't like him state of politics, because we have to get into the itty bitty gritty as to what this candidate will do, how they're going to do it, what are they talking about? Not just because they mention a topic that is of your interest, because none of that really makes sense. Okay? So we have to really make sure that we're paying attention. And certainly here we see that both Virginia and Pennsylvania and New Jersey have paid attention. And we have women leading. New Jersey, Virginia, we have female governors. In New York, we have a female governor. So you know, we're certainly progressing on that regard. And I think this is very important. This is exactly what we need. Grant gives a thumbs up. Yes, we swept the entire night where it mattered. And then some. Lynn, yes! Perfect. And thank you. Thank you for doing it. Blue Wave, time for Trump to launch massive investigations to overturn will of the people. Stephen, yeah. And I think this is the precursor, because he has been tweeting a shitstorm today saying that, oh, it looks like in the midterms, Democrats will be winning. They will be also winning the next presidency because, you know, of the filibuster. And he was like all advocating for removing this, right? And meanwhile, his own party is pretty much against it because they, you know, unlike him, kind of understand the consequences. So, you know, now what is AP still talking about? Because we're watching here the election situation. Okay. Mary Sheffield for mayor in Detroit. Let's make this larger here. Here we go. So what they're showing here is top left, Detroit. Mary Sheffield for mayor. Then they see Mamdani campaign party, Cuomo campaign party, and Cheryl campaign party. And Mikey Cheryl certainly will speak because she just won. Again, this is New Jersey, so we'll see what's going to happen there. And at Mamdani campaign, you see that they're highlighting that the early results, Mamdani holds lead over Cuomo. They're showing videos of him speaking. Cuomo has a very rainbowy, well, it gets American flag, I guess. Ready on day one type of story. Will he show up? Will he not show up? It's questionable. I did cover the latest, what was it? The debate, the mayoral debate in New York. And it was interesting in the way where it was a better debate for Cuomo than the first one, but ultimately he decided not to show up to the press briefing, which was kind of interesting. You know, Mamdani was there. The women accusing, what am I doing here? The women accusing Cuomo of groping them and assaulting them were there. And then Cuomo, right after the debate, he hustled to Madison Square Garden. And the debate was in Queens. And he sat right next to Mayor Adams in the first row at the Knicks game. This was the home opener. And the next day, Adams supported Cuomo. So certainly, this was a very weird feeling, you know, covering the campaign. Slivo came out to speak to the press. Mamdani came out to speak to the press. Cuomo did not. So if he doesn't win, I don't think he will be speaking at that whatever they're showing here. So let me reboot because I'm hella slow now on screen. So let's take a look at this. Let me put the sound on so at least it's interesting. And I'll be right back and we're going to review the results. Just a second. Okay, I'm back. It stopped showing. Very nice. Okay, here we go. Everything is very rainbowy. That's my observation here. It's like, black colors. A Democrat won mayor in Pittsburgh, says Lynn. Yay! See, it is kind of like a blue wave. Don't give me hope too early. Come on now. Yeah, Democrat won a mayor in Pittsburgh. Awesome, Lynn. Thank you. Thank you for checking this. Meanwhile, as you watch this, I'm going to check other races and the updates. Okay. What I can tell you, though, NYC mayor results are changing a little bit. We have 50.2% for Zohran Mamdani and 40.8% for Andrew Cuomo. Sliva comes third at 8.2%. Let me drop this AP. What is this guy talking about? Who is this guy? Oh, it's a commercial. Okay, great. Let me drop this for a second and let me show you the results of NBC. I'm very disappointed with AP. Whatever they blabbered in that 1 minute that we listened to certainly was a waste of time. So, can you see it? Yes, you can. So, we see here, New York City, let's update it real quick, real proper. All right, so Zohran Mamdani, 49.6%. Andrew Cuomo, 41.5%. Curtis Sliva, 8.1%. Let's check the boroughs. Mamdani is, we got to zoom in here because that's what a shitty map. It's a very shitty map. Okay, so. Okay, well. So that is my question here. So Cuomo is literally getting Sliva's votes. Because if Manhattan didn't vote for you yet, Queens didn't, looks like. It's a very interesting thing. Size of the lead. Okay, so this is the size of the lead. Okay, that's a good map. That is a good map. So you see here, Brooklyn, 44.8% for Mamdani. Manhattan, 58.4% for Mamdani. That is surprising. Bronx, 50.7%. Queens, 46.9%. Staten Island, Cuomo. And that's what I mean. Like if Staten Island is literally getting Cuomo elected, if you were ever in New York, you know how many people live in Staten Island versus other boroughs. So is he really pulling 39%, whatever, what is it now? Results. 49.6% just based on Staten Island? That is the weirdest thing ever. So few voted in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan and Bronx combined that Mamdani is ending up with 49.6%. That is weird. Oh, wow, look at this. This is changing. Are they updating in the real time? Okay, so 49.6 Mamdani, Cuomo 41.5. Sliva is with 8.1. And this is the whole point. Check it out here. So if this Sliva guy dropped, and Sliva, by the way, it's so funny because it's plum in Russian, plum. So anyway, if plum would have dropped, that would be exactly the lead that Cuomo would have needed. Add 8.1 to 41.5, and you end up with 49.6, which is exactly what Mamdani has. So Sliva is messing up Cuomo's lead. And this is all Staten Island? Once again, I mean, that is what I'm, like, that is the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me. Incredible. Staten Island. That's a MAGA community, but okay, if we go into genders, male, 44% voted. 37 for them from males are voting for Cuomo, 13 Sliva, 46 Mamdani, female 47. Okay, so it's even. And then, are you white? 44% are voting for Mamdani, 41 for Cuomo. And then essentially it's the same story, except for Asian. 61% of Asian population in New York City is voting for Mamdani and 29 for Cuomo. And then for in terms of race, white or non-white, yeah, it just resembles everything else. So, wow. See? And Mamdani was kind of talking about it as to fight till the end, don't count on the results, because that's what Cuomo did in the primaries. And yeah, so it's at this point, it's stuck at 49.6 and 41.5. That's where we at right now. Lynn says, okay, you're just thumbing up each other, which is great. So it might be a POS, but God bless him for staying in the race. Yeah, and he is screwing Cuomo, like literally. I mean, we just did the calculation. Like literally costing Cuomo a win or tie. J.D. Vance's brother didn't even get 20% in Cincinnati mayoral race. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. He has a brother. It's two of those. Tsunami, yeah, the blue tsunami, ready on day one. Right. Democrat won mayor in Pittsburgh. Okay, we talked about that. Let me see some older comments, maybe questions. Do you have any questions about global politics? Because that's my proficiency. Or anything that's going on, let me know. We can discuss it. They must learn our peaceful ways by force. Right? That's I think, the Trump thing. Like, lead by strength. I'm just going to blow you up, and so you learn to live by my rules. Makes no sense. The people who normally present the Nobel Peace Prize boycotted the ceremony. The ceremony is on December 10th, right? Definitely people in the organization were against that choice. Yeah, and this is my whole question with Machado, right? She is gonna attend the ceremony on December 10th. After all this crap that she managed to produce since she got awarded with the prize, certainly anti-peaceful. You really are gonna just show up? No convictions? Let me produce some bit of news here. So U.S. Treasury, did you know that they sanctioned 8 individuals and 2 entities today linked to North Korean cyber money laundering schemes, funding weapons programs? Officials said the action is aimed at cutting off Pyongyang's global financial network. So I guess it's a flirtation. Like, please call me, Kim Jong-un, call me, because you don't reply. I was on that diplomatic evaluation of whatever happened at APAC. And there, during that time, we got the news wire from North Korea, where Kim Jong-un said, well, Trump really tried to meet me, and he wrote me a letter. He tried to meet me through the UN, through the media, but I did not agree to do so, so it didn't lead to any response. And this came literally through the newswire as we were discussing the outcome of the APAC, which was like, everybody was giggling and having a good time. Meanwhile, Trump is dropping tariffs on Belarus Airlines. Why is it important? Because through Belarus Airlines, specifically their airline, Belavia, they can buy parts for the Boeings and other, equipment that Russia is lacking due to sanctions. So through Belarus, they can get their parts that they cannot get otherwise. And so U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, the so-called OFAC, officially confirmed the removal of Belarusian airline Belavia from its sanction. Decision was first discussed in September during a meeting between Lukashenko and U.S. envoy John Cole, signaling a tentative thaw in relations. And we all know that Belarus is just a puppet of Putin. They host the nukes there for Putin. They have the troops. They have the training. And I mean, Trump sent our Air Force, man, to participate in the training and provide advice to Russian army, right? This was just about a month ago. So also removed the Bombardier Challenger 850, the EW-301PJ business jet, long used by senior Belarusian officials and members of Lukashenko's family. U.S. officials described the step as procedural re-evaluation, but not a full normalization of ties. Come on now. Come on now. If you go back to your ex, you can call it whatever, you're back. Olga, is Trump again, Grant says, trying to talk Kim into turning North Korea into millionaire resort spot? Yes, and North Korea, Grant, if you remember, I was showing literally a video how they created this sort of coastline, and they made it sort of, I tried to make it attractive for tourists, and the only tourists they let in are Russians. And so they have this, like sort of influx of Russian tourists, if you will, to North Korea. And I think Trump will then follow the suit and have U.S. tourists coming to North Korea and vice versa, which certainly will screw South Korea and other Indo-Pacific partners. Okay, I reached my goal of 10,000 steps. I guess I did so much of this and my watch is celebrating my accomplishment. Okay, Michael says, good news, Lisa. Grant says, I remember that, right? That freaky looking video. It was like an empty beach. And then you had like Russians exiting a bus or whatever, and North Korean girls waving like, hey, greeting them with so much excitement, sort of like Nicki Minaj is, being so excited that Trump used her song today in one of his weird videos. Lynn says, major breaking, Virginia's HD 30, Democrat John McAuliffe has defeated incumbent Republican Higgins. This is the 7th flip of the night to Democrats in Virginia House. Yay, Lynn! Yay! And what did Lisa say here? Judges are safe in Pennsylvania. Yes. Can we get excited about this whole blue wave thing, or are they giving us hope before they slaughter us, sort of like Thanksgiving, historically speaking? Just very careful, but very good, guys. Listen, if you're in New Jersey, if you're in Pennsylvania, if you are in Virginia and you did the deed and you voted for who's right, I mean, literally celebrate it, because in this really freaky, weird environment where we are bombarded with this negative news and so much shit all day, every day, 24/7, on the weekend, on holiday, during the night, he shits and tweets, and it's like nonstop. So, and now we have a visual of the toilet that he uses to do this from. I mean, celebrate yourself that you keep your head on a swivel. And this is also part of it, of keeping your head on a swivel. I'm a little scared that this will cause them to accelerate their fascist push before 2026, but it's great to see. That is my other concern. Yes, Asset Morphs. It's a very nice name. That is my concern too. Are they going to use it to fully make the shutdown permanent? I think Michael was asking about it earlier. Yeah, Trump must be freaking out. We had to record turnout in Pennsylvania, Lisa. Awesome. Heck yeah. Let me update this page here. Is it stuck? Because it's the same result here. No, I guess they haven't calculated yet. So 49. Okay, he's projected a winner now in New York City. NBC News is projecting Zohran Mamdani as a winner, 49.6%, and Cuomo 41.6%. So it's literally an 8% difference. And Curtis Sliwa has 7.9% votes. So the Sliwa guy costed Cuomo his win or a tie. So do not fear them. They're weak. Be strong. Right. Amen, Grant. Amen. What did I want to show? Okay, I want to show that video. Well, there's nothing happening in these campaigns. Now AP is showing Citarelli campaign rally. I mean, for what reason? There's Mamdani campaign rally. They're just showing videos. Cuomo campaign rally is nothing, and Cheryl campaign rally is also nothing. So certainly they will be speaking soon. PA is moving from purple to blue. I mean, yeah. Amen. I mean, that's keep the faith, as Biden would say. Keep the faith. What else do we have here? Oh, that's what I wanted to do. Let's check Truth Social, shall we? I downloaded this shitty app, so I will be your messenger tonight, if you will. Truth Social, here we go. Okay, Trump is tweeting. Well, he tweeted 3 hours ago. Not now. He says, Sean Duffy has done an incredible job as now administrator of NASA. This evening, I'm pleased to announce that Jared Isaacman will be nominated to lead NASA. Jared Isaacman, that's the guy whom Musk pushed to lead NASA, and Trump said no, he's not a good guy because he was involved in donating to Democratic campaigns. And now suddenly, this is a flippity flip here, Trump is tackling on this, and he is nominating Jared Isaacman, an accomplished business leader, philanthropist, pilot, astronaut, and administrator of NASA. He's not an astronaut. He went like a tourist in space. Jared's passion for space, astronaut experience, and dedication to pushing the boundaries of exploration, unlocking mysteries of universe, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he's tackling back and agreeing now with Elon Musk to put his proxy as the leader of NASA. I let you guess that NASA recently, right, they reversed their plan on the moon landing, taking away the funds from Musk's SpaceX, saying that they will not be ready by whatever, I think the year 2030, or I think 2028 was the first date, 2030 next date, so that his heavy booster is not going to be ready to land on Mars. And they opened up tender to also Jeff Bezos, penis looking like rocket, and others. And with this guy now, Jared Isaacman, being nominated to lead NASA, assuming he will be confirmed to do so, will then reverse this decision and put Musk back into his cushy spot, money-wise. So Trump says, I just heard that 32,000 Orthodox Jews around Lakewood and Jackson, New Jersey have showed up big for Jack Ciattarelli. Well, that didn't land well. He says, it was my great honor to just meet the high-level representatives of Switzerland. We discussed many subjects, including, and most importantly, trade and trade imbalance. The meeting was adjourned with the understanding that our trade representative, Greer, will discuss the subjects further with Switzerland leaders. Obviously, he wants to hide his earnings in Switzerland. He says, tomorrow's United States Supreme Court case is literally life or death for our country. With a victory, we have tremendous but fair financial and national security. Without it, we're virtually defenseless against other countries who have for years taken advantage of us. So he essentially just wants to rule over tariff war by himself without any congressional oversight or approval. He also tweets the constitutional redistricting vote in California is giant scam, in that the entire process, in particular the voting itself, is rigged. Oh, come on now. Didn't Musk know based on some type of an app that at 8 p.m. you won? What's about that? So, what else do we have? SNAP benefits. Trump is tweeting, which increased by billions and billions of dollars, manifold, during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office, due to the fact that they handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when radical left Democrats open up government. Well, we quoted this earlier. That's it. I mean, he is not, and then he said, terminate filibuster, like he did that a couple of times. And no, we don't have any recent tweets as of latest, right? The last 3 hours. So he is either throwing ketchup or digesting or whatever. Updating this race here. Let's take a look also in New York Times to NYC mayor race. They also projected Zohran Mamdani winning with 50.4% and Andrew Cuomo with 41.3% coming in second, and Curtis Sliwa 7.5%. And then that's interesting. So total reported votes are 1,708,515 people. So it's less than 2 million people. Let me check the latest population of New York City. It's 8.5. Well, assume a lot of our tourists and are not able to vote, not citizen or whatever, but out of 8.5 million people, you have less than 2 million voting for mayor. That just means people didn't like both choices. And this is also the biggest takeaway that I had with anybody I talked about this. And like, we don't like either choices. And some people decide to vote in favor. Some people decide to vote against. It's a very low turnout here. Lynn says tonight should embolden the Democrats to behold the line and shut down. Yeah, and I hope, Lynn, this is my point here. I hope Democrats will build upon that and start fighting instead of just breaking into jubilate, like some celebratory dances, right? And just celebrating the wins. Use it as the boost, right? Like a rocket going into space. This booster. Use it as a booster. Let it fall off and fly, right? With full force. That just, they probably had to put Trump in a straitjacket tonight, Lynn says. Well, who knows? I mean, maybe he'll start talking. Michael says Trump's keyboard will be catching on fire, right? And I don't think he tweets. There's a guy now tweeting for him and printing out all this stuff. Let me check emails. Maybe some breaking news here. New York City polls closed. Okay, we know that. We have a guidance for Trump tomorrow. We have his schedule at 8:30 a.m. Wow, president is delivering remarks at breakfast with Republican senators. This is new, just came out from Trump's mouth here. 8:30 in the morning. He's holding Republicans accountable by their balls. 9:35, the president will depart White House and go to Florida. He's going to Miami. Remember, I mentioned to you that there is this weird event on the 5th of November, which is tomorrow, where Trump is speaking, Infantino, the FIFA's guy, is speaking. Also, Will Smith, the actor, is speaking there. And this all happens in I think it's called Kaseya Center. Before it was American Airlines Center in Miami, where Miami Heat is playing. Who's also speaking there? Messi, Leo Messi, if you are into soccer, or many call it football, he is speaking there. And other bankers like, JP Morgan and, owners of the banks or presidents of the banks. It's it's a MAGA rally, and Trump is being paid very well there. The tickets were between $100 and about $100,000. So it's a very big scale. And this is tomorrow. So he's flying to Miami at 8:30 in the morning. He's having breakfast with the Republican senators, and then he's off to Miami. And in Miami, he will be delivering remarks at 1 p.m. at this forum. And then, weirdly, he's returning back to the White House because he has to meet with Orban end of this week. So he's going back and forth and not staying overnight there. He also just signed the executive order modifying reciprocal tariff rates with China. I mean, earlier I mentioned that he dropped 10%, but maybe this is new. What is it? Okay, following meetings. United States in return committed to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so United States, he says here that PRC has committed to suspend or remove many retaliatory actions against the United States, including suspending tariffs on vast swath of American states' agricultural products until December 31st, 2026, and extending the PRC's market-based tariff exclusion process for United States imports until November 10, 2026. The United States, in return, Trump just signed this, committed to, among other things, to maintain the suspension of heightened reciprocal tariffs and imports of the PRC until 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, November 10, 2026. So, U.S. is suspending the tariffs on the reciprocal tariffs, because I think it comes with percentages, not all of them, until 12:01, November 10th, 2026. So what is your whole tariff now? He's conveniently not mentioning it. I have determined that it is necessary and appropriate to deal with the national emergency declared in an order. Therefore, I determined that it is necessary and appropriate to continue the suspension of the heightened tariffs until November 10, 2026. So he's, in my understanding again, he's not dropping all the tariffs on China, but just some reciprocal tariffs, because he was adding, remember, like 20 more percent, 50 more percent. So he's dropping one of those. Again, doesn't state what's the latest is, because before it was 57. And then it was announced he's dropping 10%, which he announced earlier. So then it's 47. So the question is, what's out of those 47? What is he dropping now? It remains to be seen. And again, once I have it confirmed, I will be posting it. We do have breaking news. There are 3 dead people after UPS plane crashes in Louisville. At least 3 people were killed and 11 were injured, where the cargo plane crashed shortly after takeoff near Muhammad Ali International Airport in Kentucky. Governor Bashar said he expected those numbers to grow. So again, this happened just now, 8:22 p.m., well, about an hour ago. 3 people died, 11 injured in Kentucky. It's a UPS plane. It's being now widely reported. Okay, we have that. All right. Okay, we covered it. Breaking news, Zohran Mamdani defeats Andrew Cuomo. Now, New York Times has officially announced it. Let's see here. It's not projected, but now officially announced. Again, NBC is still at 49.6%, Cuomo 41.6%. At New York Times, they do have Mamdani at 50.5% and Cuomo 41.3%. And Zohran Mamdani right now is not just projected winner, but officially is a winner of New York City mayoral race. So we do have a new mayor. He will be coming in on January 1st. They have a transition period, and of course he will start working with Mayor Adams at this point, finding out. I mean, it's the same as federal process as to take over, peaceful power takeover type of story. Lynn says Maine has voted in landslide to reject Republican-supported ballot initiative that would have restricted voting access heading into critical 2026 midterms. Great news, Lynn. Lynn, you have to become here some type of a partial reporter. That's very good. Okay, cool. So here we're still waiting on this. I can show you what this looks like. I think Mamdani is about to speak because they are zooming into his campaign. Let's make sure to tune this in. Certainly he will be, I mean, it would make sense for him to speak. I don't estimate Cuomo to speak because, I mean, like, what is he going to say? Is there anything to say? Let's share the screen. We do have those, again, 4 thingies here. Okay, let's take a look. They just zoomed onto Mamdani's stage. So I guess he will be speaking shortly. Again, this was just announced that he officially is the winner of the race in New York City. So, your comments. Okay. Again, thank you so much for watching. By the way, if you're not subscribed to our free newsletter, please subscribe. It's very important to get factual, actual news. I report my, shtick is global news, but I report on national news too, because everything is so tied together. especially in the United States, to national news and global affairs, to the point where when I was at the UN, at the United Nations General Assembly, and I met with other diplomats and even heads of state, they were so unknowingly unfamiliar with everything that's happening inside the United States. So with our newsletter, we have 6 million readers in 122 countries. And I know, why do I know? Because translations don't work recently. So I got a lot of emails on that. But people are learning what we're doing inside the United States, because if you are, in Europe, if you're in Latin America or Africa or elsewhere in Asia, you're thinking like, oh, we can rely on America to defend us. You can rely on this and that. Meanwhile, you completely are unaware what's happening inside the United States, that we are not just getting into a fascist regime, we are fully with both feet down in it. And we have this weird executive orders, and the Congress is unplugged, and all the situations. If you're not following national news in the United States, this would be a very good option for you to kind of get familiar with what's happening here, because it does have an effect. US at this point, unfortunately, has been this secure, right? The one who's guaranteeing peace and stability around the world. And we're failing because we at some point won't be capable, to even produce such results. Lynn says, great night. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn, for doing all this work and reporting on the more local elections. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. How do I get rid of? Okay, good. I just opened the thing on my screen. Couldn't see anything. Do you let me know? Do you expect Cuomo to speak? I think they can drop this camera. I don't think he's going to speak. I mean, even Kamala Harris didn't speak. Thank you, Grant. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for being here. If you're watching on Twitter, thank you so much. By the way, please like this and subscribe so more people will get this, promoted or whatever, like shown to them as a source for actual news. We're completely independent. We don't work with anybody in terms of sponsorships. We're just relying on our viewers. So if you would like to join Honest Plus, you can choose the lowest whatever member thing. For Fridays, we're meeting for deep dives. Like we did a deep dive on the Shadow Fleet sponsoring Russia's war against Ukraine. We also did a deep dive on BlackRock, which kind of like tied all the ends together in terms of Asia and Saudi Arabia and Middle East and all of this together, and others as well. And then on this coming Friday, we're going to be diving into Arctic. What's at stake in the Arctic? How can Canada protect itself? How can US also protect itself? What is Trump going to do? What is happening behind the scenes? What are the Russians saying? What are the Chinese saying? So we have a deep dive on the Arctic this coming Friday, and also what's next from MAGA, because there will be a bit of a thing there. So they're clapping for whom? Cheryl. Okay, she's about to speak. It's deservingly so. I'll shut up once somebody is out and speaking, unless it's Jack Shutdown, who called himself Big Daddy. So again, if you would like to join Honest Plus, please do. We have every last Friday, we have a meeting. And this last Friday, we met for, I think, over 2.5 hours. And we just had off the record chat on Zoom. We're just, we're discussing, and I was answering your questions and all of that. It was pretty dope. So if you can, please join. It would be wonderful. It would support us, but also would make it interesting and valuable for you. And I got rid of these commercials now. Again, if you remember, thank you for being here. Thank you. Michael is here. I saw others too. Okay, we have a lot of comments. I'm not going to scroll, but thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. Cheryl campaign rally. So in California, obviously, we still have to wait about an hour and 7 minutes for the polls to close. I mean, it's a landslide. I mean, not landslide, but it's a done deal for Proposition 50. I doubt that there are going to be any issues on that. They're just showing commercial for elections 2025. Okay, IP is speaking. Let's give them platform. Unless they talk about BS.
Mikey Sherrill has been elected as governor of New Jersey. The four-term U.S. representative pledged to tackle rising consumer costs and blasted President Donald Trump for failing to reduce prices as he had promised during the 2024 campaign. Joining me to talk a little bit about Cheryl's campaign is Zohran Mamdani. Zohran, just remind us kind of how we got to this point and wrap up, how Mikey Cheryl's campaign really looked this year.
Yeah, like Abigail's
Okay, let's talk this guy.
Virginia, Mikey Cheryl was elected to the House in 2018 in the election that allowed Democrats
Go
to
to Cheryl's
retake
campaign.
House control. They both talked a lot about economics, like you just mentioned, but unlike Spanberger, who barely mentioned Donald Trump on the campaign trail, Cheryl focused on going after him, like you said, energy costs, overall affordability. These were
And I think that's
issues
what
that
they
she
have to
hammered,
do ultimately.
in
They
a
have
state that
to
has some of the
study
highest
all
tax
the
rates
successful
in the
campaigns
country, and that
today
again, like in
and
Virginia,
use it as a
is
freaking
something
tutorial.
that seemed to have appealed to people. This is now
Why
the
is she
third
dressed in
straight
red?
Democratic win in a gubernatorial election after
Okay.
Phil Murphy won back-to-back terms. Neither party, either Republican or Democrat, had pulled that off 3 straight times in more than 60 years.
Right,
So
wow.
another little bit of history there. Cheryl becomes the second female governor after Christy Todd Whitman leaned very heavily into her background. She was an active duty Navy helicopter pilot. She was a federal prosecutor before she ran and served 4 terms. And now she gets to
I think she has
to
4
move to
kids
Trenton
too.
and become governor.
Freaking super.
Got it. It's so interesting to think about the biographies of these candidates and which ones sort of lean into them as they're campaigning and which ones maybe focus on something different. But that's definitely something that we saw Mikey Cheryl doing during her time on the campaign trail.
She is someone who had that military service in her background and really wanted to play up the national security portion, as did Abigail Spanberger again in Virginia. Cheryl's grandfather was a pilot in World War II, and then she goes on to again serve in the Navy for more than 10 years flying rather large helicopters. So it seems to be a playbook that has worked so far for Democrats, 2 for 2 in the only 2 governor's races so far this year.
Right. Thank you so much for that analysis of the Democratic side of things. And now to think about the Republican side of this contest, we are going to go back to Mike Sisak in New Jersey, who has been with Republican Jack Ciattarelli's campaign at their rally site this evening. Mike, give us a sense of what you're seeing and hearing from Republicans in this contest tonight.
Yeah, you're seeing on your screens Mikey Cheryl's headquarters, the Democrat that the AP has declared the winner in this race. Lots of jubilation there. Not so much at Jack Ciattarelli's headquarters. He's the Republican who now has lost his 3rd bid to be governor of New Jersey. He lost in a primary 2 cycles ago, lost to Phil Murphy, the incumbent now.
Oh, cry me a river. You know what's interesting here is that, just media-wise, they put a AP reporter in all the Republican parts, but you see, you have just cameraman doing a live feed off of the Democratic elections and HQs. That is freaking pathetic. And then now you have at the Cheryl's campaign, somebody speaking, and you don't even tune them in. AP, what's up? What did you sign when you got your badge back? I mean, I have my fat red denied, so it's very interesting, right? Wearing red, being positioned at the Republican campaigns, talking about how it didn't work out, but you don't really. Why don't you talk to the winners to see what did they do to win? Some positivity. I think we all can use some positivity, or you are catering to a very interesting demographic at this point, which kind of looks like, right? Yeah. Okay. While we at that, let me put noise for this thing and let me find a better thing to watch, because this here is a bit Republican
stronghold when she won that race in 2018.
Yeah, right,
And
AP
as
is
you
compromised,
mentioned as well,
like a lot of
playing up
them
her
saying,
military
right?
background,
That's like
and in this race, unlike in Virginia, really making Donald Trump a character in it, going on the attack, mentioning how he, in her words, drove up the cost of living. And also has made decisions that affect New Jersey residents and New Jersey commuters. In the last few weeks, she made a focal point of her campaign the president's decision to freeze funding for the tunnel repairs and renovations going on, the commuter tunnels that link New Jersey and Manhattan. That has been a project that has been going on for many, many years. Former Republican Governor Chris Christie at one point froze funding for that same project before former President Joe Biden kickstarted it. And now it is yet another political football or political chip that Mikey Sherrill seized on in these final weeks of the campaign. We expect to hear from Jack Ciattarelli at some point. We also expect to hear from Mikey Sherrill at her headquarters. But for now, the watching and waiting has turned into the what happened once again for Jack Ciattarelli.
Mike, thank you so much for that reporting on the ground there from Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters tonight. We will continue to keep our eye on video coming in from that event, as well as Mikey Sherrill's headquarters. If either candidate comes out to speak, we'll be bringing you those comments live. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're continuing to see live images coming in from New York City, where we continue to monitor events for candidates in that race and continue to await an AP race call. If any of those circumstances change, we will be bringing you that information as soon as it comes into us. But for now, we'll return you to these live images from New Jersey on your left and New York City on your right. Back with you soon.
Okay, I found something that I think would be better at this point. Okay, so here they're actually tuning in to the Sherrill campaign, so I would like to do that instead, because like these people here, they're just probably waiting for somebody Republican to speak. Very interesting decisions, but whatever, we have it. So okay, here we go. Let's check this out here. She's speaking.
This is going to be 3 in a row for the Democrats.
I'm just ask the producer, are we going to listen to Mikey? So we're going to take a few minutes to listen and to Mikey Sherrill taking her victory lap.
Have heard you. I hear you too. This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. When I was 18, I raised my hand and I swore to defend the Constitution. And that moment defines me. It taught me that leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend, and always putting the common good above personal gain. And I know how hard it can be to serve in these times. And I just got a call from Jack Ciattarelli, and I want to recognize him for stepping up. And all of you know, I love our history, and our state motto has always stuck with me. In 1777, New Jersey was one of the first states to choose a motto. Anybody? Liberty and prosperity. I'm going to get some more civics education going. We'll get that known by all. But it was a demand for freedom from oppression and a commitment to creating better opportunity and a better future. That idea has defined us for almost 250 years. We fought for liberty at the crossroads of the American Revolution, turning the tide for our young nation at the battles of Trenton and Princeton. We offered prosperity as we built the nation during the Industrial Revolution. We've been the cradle of scientific discovery, inventing everything from the light bulb to the laser. Liberty and prosperity. I've seen the genius in that motto over the last year, because both are essential in our democracy. And as the president is backing away from this ideal, cutting SNAP, ripping away health care, terminating Gateway, we here in New Jersey are bound to fight for a different future for our children. We see how clearly important liberty is. We know that no one in our great state is safe when our neighbors are targeted, ignoring the law and the Constitution. But prosperity is equally essential. Liberty alone is not enough if the government makes it impossible for you to feed your family, to get a good education, or to get a good job. So in this country, that shouldn't be too much to ask. But right now, all of it seems at risk. Governors have never mattered more. And in this state, I am determined to build prosperity for all of our citizens. And I've heard from thousands of you about what liberty and prosperity mean to you, what it's going to take for your family to thrive. So I hear you, Newark. I'm going to work with communities from the ground up so all of our neighbors thrive. I hear you, Sham, so I'm going to declare a state of emergency on day one to drive down your utility costs. I hear you, Westfield, so I'm going to make sure our kids are safe online and schools have the resources they need to address the mental health crisis. I hear you, Jersey City, so I'm going to hold government accountable, balancing individual liberty with collective responsibility, ensuring people are safe, healthy, educated, and free to pursue their dreams. I hear you, New Jersey. Good government doesn't just manage problems, it solves them. So I'm going to continue to listen and work with you to move our state forward, because I have learned so much as I've traveled our state. Our innovations, our businesses, our inventors and entrepreneurs have amazed me, but it's the people that have left the biggest mark, especially those who are fighting for prosperity for their entire communities. I was moved during my block walk in Trenton with Shanique as she spoke so passionately about the promise of her city and her neighbors despite the challenges. I love the group of young men from Monroe who've been hard at work on this campaign. They want a seat at the table and they're ready to fight for their future. The little girls who come up to me to say that they're going to be a governor or they're going to be a president. It reminds me of my own belief that anything was possible. Akeem's team, who worked their butts off, knocked over 60,000 doors. Akeem told me these are not the kids who will succeed in Trump's vision of this country, but they will in mine. The men and women in labor. Union jobs at a time when our economy is set up to make it harder and harder for working people. You know what? They don't just fight for their brothers and sisters in labor. They fight for all of us. For working families everywhere, so everyone has a shot. So thank you. Thank you to each and every person here tonight and across the state who's worked hard over the last year. Thanks to the thousands of volunteers who made millions of calls, texts, and canvases, to everyone who's ready to stand and demand a better future for our kids and our families. To my running mate, Dr. Dale Caldwell. You've already served our state so well, and I'm proud to have you by my side as we embark upon this new chapter for New Jersey. To my team, who put together a campaign the likes of this state has never seen and helped in our efforts to create a great future for New Jersey. And thanks to my family. Who put up with missed soccer games, lacrosse games, football games, volleyball games, swim meets, and rugby games, all to put up with this, so thank you. And a special thanks to my husband, Jason. Through 4 kids, 2 dogs, a hamster, numerous goldfish, 5 campaigns, an insurrection, and 2 impeachments, you have been a truly amazing partner. So thank you to everyone who's joined me in fighting for a better future. I know these are tough times. I know not everyone voted for me, but I'm working for everyone. Every single one of you. When we all do better, we all do better. So tomorrow begins a new day. And at each new day in New Jersey, the sun rises over the Statue of Liberty, a daily reminder of her promise. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. She declares that her lamp lights the path to the golden door. That golden door is New Jersey. It always has been. And that expectation is well deserved, especially after this election, where we chose, we're going to follow Lady Liberty's beacon. We're not going to give in to our darker impulses. Here in New Jersey, we know that this nation has not ever been, nor will it ever be, ruled by kings. We take oaths to a constitution, not a king. We've chosen liberty, the very foundation of democracy, and we've chosen prosperity necessary to create opportunity for all. So New Jersey, to quote the boss, the future is now. Roll up your sleeves, let your passion flow. The country we carry in our hearts is waiting. Thank you, New Jersey.
You have been listening to New Jersey Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill taking her victory lap tonight, referencing the Statue of Liberty, even referencing the whole No Kings movement. A happy woman for good reason. We've got with us ABC's Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein. You're an expert in all things politics. This was a neck-and-neck race coming into the night. At least that's what a lot of polls did. It didn't look neck and neck when you look at those final numbers.
No, you're 100% right, and I think Mikey Sherrill will emerge as one of the bigger stars of this night. The idea that she's going to win as comfortably as she did, and I was looking at the maps earlier, and you can just see in all the places that Democrats needed to do well, she did very well. In all the places that Republicans need to do well, she cut into the margin significantly. And the fears that Democrats had coming into the night, noting that Jack Ciattarelli came within 3 points of beating the incumbent governor, Phil Murphy, last time around, and the way that Donald Trump came much closer than any Republican in recent history to winning the state. Was there going to be further slippage? Mikey Sherrill was able to answer that with a resounding victory tonight. And she will be someone who is looked to on the national stage, along with Abigail Spanberger, now the governor-elect in Virginia. They both were elected at the same time in 2018. They've got a long, close relationship with each other. And both of them, I think, are going to be looked to as leaders of the party from a much different wing than Zohran Mamdani. These are 2 moderates. They're moms. They have national security backgrounds. And they are the newest governors elected in the United States tonight.
So a lot of people have said that this election, those elections in particular, the New Jersey race, governor's race, as well as the Virginia governor's race, kind of a sneak peek at what we might expect to see or might influence what we see in the midterms. Now we've got Zohran Mamdani in the mix as winning the New York. Any clearer what the midterms, is it going to be as much of a catfight as people seem to think it might be?
Well, it's definitely going to be a district by district fight. But I think the types of candidates that will run and step forward will be different in different places. New York City is different than the state of New Jersey, which is different than the state of Virginia. And to win the House of Representatives, you have to run different types of candidates as Democrats in different places. So I don't think it really brings ideological clarity, but it does give some sense of how Democrats can be motivated. You're going to see tonight in New York, we already have record turnout. It's possible that Mamdani gets more votes than any mayor in New York history when this is done. And turnout was up across the board in a lot of these races. We're expecting big turnout in California, where the polls are still open for a little while longer. So the fact that Democrats were able to come out this year, I think people have been sort of weary of politics over the last year, but they woke up on the Democratic side tonight, and they're having a very big night, motivated by what they've seen from Donald Trump and motivated by the focus that so many of these candidates had on just basic cost of living issues.
Yeah, so and we've got other guests sitting here with us tonight. In addition to Rick Klein, we've been talking to James Vaca, former New York City councilman, and Jennifer Jones-Austin. Jennifer, we talked a little bit before Rick came in about the job that Mamdani has in front of him. He's going to have to build a coalition, people who never maybe worked with someone as young as Zohran Mamdani. How does that happen?
So I think we have to first appreciate that this young man has run a very effective campaign. He's demonstrated that he actually knows how to lead and manage a campaign. We may be a little more anxious than we should be. We didn't see any big, slip-ups. No big, catastrophes or anything of that nature. And so maybe we should begin there. He seems to be very thoughtful. He seems to be very smart. He appears to be very strategic. And so, while we don't know who he's going to put in the deputy mayor roles at this particular point, I'm sure that he's got a pretty good sense already. I remember when serving as co-chair for Bill de Blasio, we knew in the days leading up who was going to sit in those key seats: the director of the Office of Management and Budget, the deputy mayors for housing and urban and economic development, and the like. We had a pretty good sense. So I imagine he doesn't want to fail.
No.
He just needs to get the right people who believe in his vision and will help him manage to it.
He's going to have to watch how city agencies operate, how they're managed. He's going to want to improve upon where we are today, not see a decline in where we are today. I'm watching the numbers. He's nearing 50%. He seems to be at 50%. Well, if he's below 50%, they will say he does not have a mandate. If he makes 51%, then you cannot say that Curtis Sliwa was a spoiler. So even the numbers coming in will be the object of much discussion. But he is going to be the mayor. So he's got to start in that mode of, how do I get to where I want to go? And how do I get people running these agencies, deputy mayors and commissioners, who will be there and monitor things and make sure things run well, because that reflects on him.
But he will be able to say that he did something that has not yet been done. He brought the young people out.
Yes.
And the young people are the future of this party. And so they can't take that away from him.
And I'm going to have to cut you all off, or I'm going to lose my job. Thank you guys for sitting down with us tonight. James Vaca, Jennifer Jones-Austin, Rick Klein. You're not going anywhere. We are going to send you over to WABC TV Channel 7, where we will continue our election night coverage.
In this room? Absolutely, Sade.
Talk about being unstoppable, NJ. I mean, think about all the money that was poured into this race. We know former Mayor Bloomberg poured I think $8.3 million into this race. He then gave an additional $1.5 million last week. We had other billionaires that put money in. The Lauder family, supporting Cuomo. The Lauder family, $2.6 million. Bill Ackman, he had a few million as well. There were so many forces at play here to try to stop Mamdani, but it just didn't happen. This was his night.
Right. It really was an improbable, quixotic campaign from the very beginning. But I do want to make a point, Sade, about the business community, because it's really not fair to paint the city's business community with one brush. As you know, it's not a monolith. And there are several people, high-ranking people in the city's business community who told me that they thought that Mamdani's affordability agenda could actually help business in New York. How? By retaining workers and by attracting workers. If the city were more affordable, those businesses might be able to better attract people to come to New York and then, of course, to keep those workers once they're here. So that's a very important point to keep in mind. And I spoke also to several elected leaders and lawmakers from Albany tonight who were saying to me, don't necessarily assume that Mamdani's tax proposals will be dead on arrival in Albany. They're watching, they're paying attention, they're listening, not the least of whom is Governor Kathy Hochul, who's up for re-election next year.
Right.
Mike?
And speaking of Governor Hochul, she already said that she doesn't want to raise taxes. He wants to raise taxes, the corporate taxes, from 7.25 to 11.5, and he also wants to do a 2% flat tax for anyone making over $1 million. But Hochul says that she doesn't want to raise those taxes. So how is he going to do this? How is he going to get his agenda across, NJ?
Well, remember, though, he had the Speaker of the State Assembly, and they had the Majority Leader of the State Senate, and then the governor who campaigned with him. Yes, she said several times that Mamdani and I have some differences, but remember, this election is sending a message to all of them. Does that mean she's necessarily going to raise taxes in the ways that he wants those taxes to be raised? No, it doesn't necessarily say that. But what it does say is that the door is conceivably open to precisely that, Sade.
Well, NJ, I'm curious. We talk about the politics. Now let's talk about the person, because here's a guy who seemingly came out of nowhere. You mentioned he just turned 34, born in Uganda, raised in Cape Town, moved to New York City when he was 7, and then attended the Bronx High School of Science, and he was off and running, spending 3 terms in the Assembly. But it's interesting to think about all those people who had criticisms for his policies, but the historic nature of his rise to this moment to become the 111th mayor of the biggest city in this country is truly remarkable, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, and I want to read to you a statement that was just texted to me from the Reverend Al Sharpton. And he says, quote, "Not since the election of Barack Obama in 2008 have voters been this energized or hopeful about a candidate. Mayor-elect Mamdani's victory represented not only the belief in a single candidate, but the idea that New York City can once again be affordable, especially for black and brown communities." That statement just texted to me from the Reverend Al Sharpton. So, yeah, it's an historic moment. It's a big deal for the city of New York. Now, the question is, what can he do on the municipal level? Well, he's got a progressive city council. We know that. Now you've got a progressive guy in the mayor's office. So presumably a lot of these progressive ideas and concepts and policies will be enacted in the months to come. Obviously, after January 1st, they're going to look to do a lot of things. They're going to look to close Rikers Island. A lot of things that Mayor Adams vetoed or told them, if it comes to me, it's dead on arrival. That's not going to be the case after January 1st, Mike.
Yeah, no, NJ, you make a great point. Stick with us. We're going to be coming to you throughout the night. But, Sade, we were talking. I live in Brooklyn, so I was out there, in the streets, especially that brownstone Brooklyn sort of corridor, the Fort Greene, and then you have the Park Slopes and Cobble Hill. And I was talking to a woman today who said that she voted for Mamdani, and I said, well, what is it about him? And she said, it's the energy. He was able to capture the energy. I said, have you seen anything like this? And she said, Obama. And it's interesting that NJ just mentioned, you get the same sort of surge of enthusiasm, which is bared out in the record number of voters.
Yeah, it's really stunning how many people have come out to cast their vote on this. Let's go out to Lauren Glassberg right now, who is with the Cuomo camp, and certainly a really disappointing night. There were 2 playbooks here. Mamdani certainly was looking to use the new playbook, and unfortunately Cuomo used the old playbook in this. And he admitted this week that he underestimated Mamdani. Sad night for him, for sure, Lauren.
Yeah, and we have not heard from the candidate yet, Sade, but Andrew Cuomo underestimated Zohran Mamdani as far back as the primary, which we know he fared very poorly in. And it really didn't serve as the wake-up call it probably should have for his campaign staff and for the candidate. He went into this race as an independent, despite being a very prominent Democrat for so many years, and he never really found his footing, nor did he find a very clear message. He was going up against Zohran Mamdani, who may have been a relative newcomer to the world of politics and a virtual unknown, at least for most people in New York City. But what Zohran Mamdani was able to do was captivate the voters with a very strong message of making the city more affordable, which of course NJ talked about. Cuomo's message was a little bit all over the map. Initially, it was talking about making the city safer and adding new police officers. Then he also talked about affordability, latching on to Zohran Mamdani's #1 priority and talking about building more affordable apartments and housing. Then he also talked about socialism and how that would be bad for New York City. And he talked about how he was the only one with experience. So the message was varied, and it depended on where he was in the campaign. But what he never got was traction. We saw that in the polls all the way through this race. He could never gain on Mamdani. And also, he was initially up against Eric Adams, the current mayor, who had a fair bit of support, although he was in fourth, and then Curtis Lewa, the Republican, who many have called a spoiler. And this race is so close, it looks like Curtis Lewa's votes, if they had gone to Cuomo, this would have made it a neck-and-neck race. But this is a long-time politician coming up against a really captivating, motivational speaker who had the young people enthralled, and that just carried out in waves to the rest of New York. He met his match with a newcomer, and perhaps this election really was a referendum on the old and the new, and perhaps Democrats of old and new Democrats, perhaps this social democratic socialist movement that we are seeing with Zohran Mamdani. But we have not heard from the candidate yet, and I can tell you the mood here is not great. One man was holding a sign that said Curtis Lewa, the spoiler.
Lauren Glassberg, thank you. Of course,
so let me silence this, good people. Okay, so we have it, right? We do have some kind of a blue wave. And I think at least tonight you can go to bed being quite happy with the results that happened. Again, we are about 34 minutes away from the polls closing in California, which we predict to be obviously, a positive decision for Proposition 50. So we'll certainly document that. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially if you're in Eastern time. Just know that all Democratic candidates have won, essentially, and also Pennsylvania protected their own justices. So altogether, good news. If you are in New York, yes, we know that both Cuomo and Mamdani were basically Democratic candidates, and you may have voted for whomever, but we do have a new mayor, and this will be now Zohran Mamdani coming January 1st. And so I will wait, and I will show you the speech that he will deliver. And as far as what I'm seeing is it will be imminent. So I will let run our regional sort of news here, or local news, rather, ABC 7 in New York, to listen to his speech. And then once we have any result from California, I'm going to show it too. But in case you need to go to bed, I know it's Tuesday and it's 10:27 p.m. Eastern. So I'm really grateful for your time here with me. We're 2 hours, 23 minutes in. We did cover national and global news. So, if you are just joining in, scroll back, watch them. I'm going to, meanwhile, work on the newsletter and send it out to you. I don't think I'm going to see you. So I'm going to wait for Mamdani to speak and then round it up. So if you're interested, please stick around. I'm certainly grateful again for your time, and thank you for being here. And tomorrow we will be with our regular national global coverage of actual news. And again, I'm grateful for you for being here, for spending this night together. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Sean, and everybody who did comment tonight. And if you're Honest Plus member, thank you so much for your support. If you're not, please consider it. So again, thank you. I'm going to tune in back to ABC 7 until we have Mamdani speak, and then we'll round it up. And again, I'm going to also highlight California results once we have them in about 30 minutes. So thank you again, and have a peaceful night. And let's go back to this coverage. All righty, let's put the sound.
They were successful in states that, yes, they're blue-ish, but they have tendency to vote in Republicans. So if you combine those stars and you look at their profiles, one of the things it says to me as someone that watches this stuff is you got to be careful about who you run and where. There isn't going to be a silver bullet. It isn't a type of policy or a type of politician that works everywhere. You have to be thinking about these races and be willing to work, because Zohran Mamdani showed that you put in the work, you show the passion, you show the talents that he has in this, you can be rewarded.
What about Sliwa? Was he the spoiler in all of this?
I think that undersells what Zohran Mamdani has accomplished, frankly. I think if Mamdani cracks 50%, then first of all, forget what Curtis Sliwa was. There's no way he would have gotten there. But even if he does, Mamdani did this on his own. And, you know, this is the race you have to run. It's not that Andrew Cuomo didn't have name recognition or financial backing or anything else. He won fair and square in the primary, and now he's winning again in the general election. And I think the Sliwa effect, there's a lot of Republicans in this city that'll never be comfortable with voting for Andrew Cuomo. And Donald Trump sat on the sidelines of this race for all intents and purposes. You can look at a lot of factors. This was a wild race. It's a unicorn. We're not going to see this whole accumulation of factors, I think, ever again. But I think anyone that says this is just a fluke, I think, is missing the blaring signs that are emanating right now about what this actually means in Mamdani's win.
You mentioned New Jersey. I'd love to ask you about that. Do you mind hanging out for just a second?
Let's do it.
Because we just heard from Sliwa moments ago.
Let's go out to his camp with Stefan Kim. Stefan?
Well, Sade and Mike, before I get into the mood here at the Sliwa headquarters, I want to touch on something Lauren talked about, a sign that she saw at the Cuomo headquarters, which said Sliwa the spoiler. Now, Curtis Sliwa has said time and time again, the problems that the Democratic Party is facing, those are not his problems to fix. He also would argue that don't assume that just because if he were to drop out of this race, that all of his votes would automatically transfer to Andrew Cuomo. He also has argued that it is not incumbent on him to drop out of the race, rather for Andrew Cuomo to win Curtis Sliwa voters. Now, to the mood here at the Curtis Sliwa headquarters, if there was any more proof that tonight was not about winning tonight, the mood here is celebratory despite tonight's loss. Curtis Sliwa in his concession speech said, "We will not surrender, we will not retreat, we will continue on," as his supporters chanted, "Fight, fight, fight." He framed this campaign, his candidacy, as for the people, by the people, us versus them, against the billionaires, he called it. He also had a message for the mayor-elect. Let's take a listen.
Let me warn our new leader. If you try to implement socialism, if you try to render our police weak and impotent, if you forsake the people's public safety, we're not only organizing, but we are mobilizing, and we will become the mayor-elect and his supporters' worst enemies, worst nightmare.
And you heard it there. Curtis Sliwa is not going away. He did not go away during this campaign, even after facing intense pressure to drop out of this race. He campaigned hard until the very last day. He even said that they tried to bribe me out of this race. He said we are not for sale. He made a reference, of course, to President Trump about the people who asked his supporters to vote for Andrew Cuomo. There were boos in this crowd when he said that. Notably, there were also Trump supporters in this crowd. A very odd dynamic here at the Curtis Sliwa headquarters. Back to you guys.
Stefan Kim with Curtis Sliwa tonight. Stefan, thank you.
And we want to bring Rick Klein back in the conversation. Rick, let's now move forward.
Yeah.
Voters are going to be patient for so long.
Yeah.
How much time do you think Mamdani has to actually get these programs going?
About 12 New York seconds. I mean, it is, and of course, you take office in New Year's Day in New York, so you have even less time. I've been told by people that have had conversations with him, including people that have held elected office in the past, that he's receptive to the ideas that he's been talking about. Who do I need where? What do I need to do day one? He's going to be judged, like any mayor is judged, on what he actually does, not how he campaigns. And the blocking and tackling, the basics of running a city, making sure the trash is collected, making sure the snow is removed, making sure when there's
Because we know de Blasio, remember that very first snowstorm?
Yes, this is what can undo you. And there's so many other things. You were talking about Donald Trump was talking about withholding federal funds, the idea that he could bring the National Guard in. The first tragic event that might involve a member of the police force. How does he handle that, given the animosity that appears to be there from the beginning? Who does he surround himself with in terms of competent governance? Those are the decisions he'll have to make, and make extremely quickly under a microscope unlike we've ever seen, because he is a national figure for all intents and purposes. Everything he does here in New York over the next 4 years is going to be scrutinized and covered, especially on the right, where Donald Trump and right-wing media cannot wait to be talking about everything he does.
It's interesting you bring that up because, I mean, Mamdani is going to be in charge of a budget bigger than most countries, or a lot of countries, I should say.
$115 billion budget.
In something that he admittedly has never done before.
Yeah.
And that was one of the criticisms on the trail. You mentioned President Trump because it's an interesting aspect to the New Jersey governor's race.
Yeah.
And you had Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican, who kind of had him at an arm's length, held a couple of tele-rallies, never came to actually rally with Jack Ciattarelli in person. How much did the Trump factor play a role in that race, do you believe?
Well, look, if Ciattarelli loses by as much as it seems like he will not have done as well even as Donald Trump did in the state. And he doesn't come close to as well as he did 4 years ago when he had a much more independent profile. He decided to hitch his wagon to Donald Trump. And if you're a Republican, maybe there's no other way to do it. But Republicans who voted for Trump did not show up for him tonight. They showed up either for Cheryl or they sat it out. And there's going to be a lot of soul searching about that strategic decision. Ciattarelli, of course, started as a never Trumper a long time ago in ancient history now, but he tied his fortunes to Trump. And I was struck by how little Trump did for him, or really for any of the candidates that were out there today. He endorsed Andrew Cuomo at the very last second. He was very grudging endorsement in Virginia and kind of half-hearted in New Jersey. It was Barack Obama out there on the stump, not anything from Donald Trump in the last couple of days. So maybe Donald Trump realizes, as he's already said tonight, look, I wasn't on the ballot, and that's different. But Republicans have to realize Donald Trump's not going to be on the ballot again in the midterms next year or in the next presidential. And this will set in the new phase of the Trump presidency as well. And we'll see how he reacts to that.
And this is a good night for Democrats. They have got to be excited about this win in Virginia and here in New Jersey. And now they also have to contend with this democratic socialist and what this means.
That's right. And do you embrace that or not? And, people are going to make the comparison to how Donald Trump took the Republican Party by storm. And Mamdani isn't at that level, and I don't think that's an apt comparison. But what Donald Trump was saying to Republicans is, guys, stop fighting it. Look what I'm getting done here. I'm winning. I'm winning in primaries in very red states and very blue states. Fall in line because it's a successful model. And, Mamdani's going to be able to say something similar. Look what I got done in the nation's largest city against all these formidable opponents. Look what I was able to accomplish. You're going to want a piece of that.
Certainly got the attention. You even have California Governor Newsom saying, look, whatever the politics, you got to pay attention to what he was able to generate. So it'll be interesting to see if that's perhaps a blueprint of some kind as they move forward.
Yeah.
Wonderful show, Chief. We always appreciate it. Rick Klein, thank you.
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.
It was great being with you.
Yep.
It's always great being with you. Well, now we want to go to Anthony Johnson, who is with the Mikey Sherrill camp. And I'm sure that they are still celebrating. We heard from Mikey Sherrill earlier, thanking her husband, thanking her kids, saying the future is now, that this was a tough fight, and good governance doesn't just manage problems, but solves them.
Yeah, she also talked about liberty and prosperity, and of course that's been the message all throughout the campaign, talking about affordability and how to make this state affordable for everybody to be able to live in. She also has always talked about education, making sure kids are safe online. She gave a 15-minute speech coming up here about 10 o'clock. She said she heard from Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli. The crowd was just enthusiastic when she stepped up on the stage. She bringing her family up here. It's been quite an evening. It started out looking good from her right from the very beginning as the early numbers started to come in, and they stayed consistent right throughout the evening. You know, so many polls had this race getting closer and closer and closer, but ultimately it was the voters who decided, and they decided overwhelmingly to support Mikey Sherrill. She spoke to the crowd here. She says she's ready to go get the job done, and she's calling on all the people here in New Jersey to help her move forward with the new agenda. Of course, she will become governor on January 20th of next year. She'll become the 57th governor, the first female Democratic governor elected here in the state of New Jersey. Once again, she did give a very rousing speech.
This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. When I was 18, I raised my hand and I swore to defend the Constitution. And that moment defines me. It taught me that leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend, and always putting the common good above personal gain. And I know how hard it can be to serve in these times. And I just got a call from Jack Ciattarelli, and I want to recognize him for stepping up. And all of you know, I love our history, and our state motto has always stuck with me. In 1777, New Jersey was one of the first states to choose a motto. Anybody? Liberty and prosperity. I'm going to get some more civics education going. We'll get that known by all. But it was a demand for freedom from oppression and a commitment to creating better opportunity and a better future. That idea has defined us for almost 250 years. We fought for liberty at the crossroads of the American Revolution, turning the tide for our young nation at the battles of Trenton and Princeton. We offered prosperity as we built the nation during the Industrial Revolution. We've been the cradle of scientific discovery, inventing everything from the light bulb to the laser. Liberty and prosperity. I've seen the genius in that motto over the last year because both are essential in our democracy.
All right, so we've just been hearing from the governor-elect Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. We want to go now to Andrew Cuomo, who was defeated by Zohran Mamdani as mayor in New York City. And you can hear the support from the former governor, who will not become the mayor of New York. We'll hear what he has to say about his failed attempt tonight.
You're taking my time. You're taking my time. First, let me. I love you too. I love you too. Let me acknowledge part of my special campaign team. We have from the right, Telef Lundaval, the new son-in-law, husband of Mariah. We have Mariah, Cara, Michaela. I want to thank our campaign chairman, Bill Mulrow, our great campaign manager, Greg Goldner. I want to thank Mayor Adams, who stepped out of the race to make us more competitive, and that was a very gracious thing to do. I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg, who gave us his support, Governor David Patterson, all the unions, and I am blessed. I am blessed to have the people in this room. You have been a phenomenal team, great friends. You are superstars. Even more, you are New York patriots. And I am proud of you. This campaign was the right fight to wage. And I am proud of what we did and what we did together. This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country. And this coalition transcended normal partisan politics. It brought together Democrats and Republicans and independents, joined by the simple fact that their first allegiance is as citizens of New York City. Two million voters, the largest number in modern political history, cared enough to show up in a municipal election. And 42% voted for us on an independent line. That is the highest percentage in modern history. Ironically, it is just higher than when Mario Cuomo got 40% on an independent line against Ed Koch in 1977. It's also important to note that almost half of New Yorkers did not vote to support a government agenda that makes promises that we know cannot be met. We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship. That's what New York is, and that's what New York must remain. We are a nation of laws, and we believe in law and order, and we need the police to keep society safe. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. We cherish our diversity, and we have no tolerance for discrimination of any kind by race, religion, sexual orientation, or creed. And we will not tolerate any behavior that fans the flames of anti-Semitism or diverse attacks. Our strength is our unity. Black, white, brown, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, we are one. We are the family of New York. We believe in interconnection and mutuality and codependence. And you attack one of us, you attack all of us. That is what it means to be a New Yorker. No one and nothing will ever divide us. And this campaign was necessary to make that point. A caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it. Also, my friends, feel proud, because we accomplished the two important New York characteristics. We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race when the media had already commenced the coronation. And feel proud, because we fought our hearts out and we left it all on the field. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani. That is not right. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers because our city is the greatest city in the world, and we will unite for New York City because we love New York City. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you. I love you for the fight you made, for the soul that you showed, and the example that you set. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
And you were just listening to Andrew Cuomo. Well, the voters have decided it was not enough for him to win tonight. He was looking for a political comeback, but that did not happen. Cuomo congratulated Mamdani, but he did caution a flag. He said, "We are headed down a dangerous path, and we will hold them to account."
Flanked by his daughters, also mentioned his late father, the three-term governor Mario Cuomo, in giving his speech, really championing the effort that they made on the independent line, switching to independent because he was defeated in the primary by now Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Let's go to Lauren Glassberg, who has been with the Cuomo campaign. She's at the headquarters tonight. Give us a sense of how his speech played in the room, Lauren.
Well, I can tell you it was a really interesting speech because while at the end he congratulated Mamdani, he had a number of fighting words before he got to that point, and that rallied his supporters, that rallied his base. He talked about how as an independent, he got 42% of the vote. That was the highest ever. He said that almost half the New Yorkers did not vote for the agenda that Mamdani was putting out. And to me, those are fighting words. He also said it's a nation of law and order. We need the police. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. He cherishes diversity and will have no tolerance for discrimination. And he also said that after the primary, when everybody thought he was dead, he still ran as an independent, and he made this into a race. He thanked Mayor Eric Adams for bowing out of the race. He called him gracious. He thanked Mayor Bloomberg for his support, his very public support and financial support. In the end, he said that, yes, we will help in this transition. We want New York to work for all New Yorkers. But when he did congratulate Mamdani, his supporters booed. And Andrew Cuomo said, no, we do not do that. That is not right. That is not us. So certainly a frustrating night for this longtime politician who was very much hoping to resurrect his political career. It was not his night to do so. Mike and Shade.
And perhaps witnessing the end of a political career, and so much history there with Andrew Cuomo as we hear Jay-Z and Alicia Keys with the infamous New York anthem literally playing off Andrew Cuomo, at least in this election. Lauren, thank you. We'll be checking back in at the top of the hour.
Well, now we want to check back in with NJ Burkett, who is with the Mamdani camp at headquarters in Brooklyn. And NJ, I do know that Cuomo's concession speech was actually playing there. Can you tell me the reaction of folks there in the room?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I guess, Sade, they couldn't hear it because the music is pumping. They did see him on television, on the big screen. He stepped out, they booed him, and then they couldn't really hear what he was saying. I was listening, but they couldn't hear it. And then when he went off the stage, they cheered that he was leaving the stage. It's to be expected, of course. And I think Lauren pointed out, made a very good point, that I think the former governor was very gracious in thanking, in giving saying is due to Mamdani and to Mamdani's campaign. And then when people in the room started to boo, Cuomo said, no, that's not us. That's not essentially who we are. So yes, at times a gracious speech, but of course he does sound a bit bitter about the way this whole thing played out. And I think, Rick Klein will talk about this later, I'm sure, and others will analyze this. But Cuomo ran, it pains me to say this, but he ran an awful campaign. He announced that he was going to run in March through a video, dropped a 17-minute video out there on the web, then did a bunch of appearances in union halls, didn't stick around to take questions from reporters, snuck out a side door, got a Dodge Charger, and left reporters in the dust. He did that for weeks on end, not making himself available to the press corps. It was a bad look for him. And I will share also a story with you. And I asked one of his aides, at what point is the former governor going to take questions from people like me, from people in the media? And she said to me, after the primary, he'll be much more available. Well, we know how that turned out. Mike, Sade?
Yeah, and when you look at Mamdani, I mean, he appeared to run circles around Cuomo, appearing in all of this social media, garnering millions and millions of views. I mean, furthering his agenda of affordability, talking about rent freeze and that famous polar plunge. He just resonated with folks, and he was appearing in rallies where you saw thousands and thousands of people, and then you see a split screen of Cuomo, and he's with 2 or 3 people. Maybe he appeared at a church. So there was a very vast difference on how these two ran their campaigns.
Well, there was a good reason for that, Sade, because in the end, Cuomo lost all his union support. Mamdani had the most powerful unions, the biggest unions in the city. After Cuomo lost the primary, they all went to Mamdani. So what do you need to run a big rally? You need to have your union supporters there, and yes, also the grassroots people. But the union people showed up for those rallies. That's what made them so telegenic. That's what made them so powerful and made such great pictures for Mamdani. And just understand that this guy was essentially fearless, Sade, from beginning to end. He never feared failure. He always believed and stayed on message every step of the way. He had a bad debate performance, not bad, but it wasn't a great debate performance in the second debate. But he didn't let it slow him down. He didn't let it kill his confidence. He put one foot in front of the other. So did his followers and his supporters. And so here we are tonight, Sade.
Oh, and Jay, another thing I was actually thinking about was how Mamdani, at every turn in this election, he addressed any issue. When there was the issue of Islamophobia, he was outside of that mosque in Queens, giving an impassioned plea, saying, I will not hide in the shadows with my religion like my family often had to do after 9/11. Right. He was present at every moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was there for that speech, Sade, and I know that some people criticized him and said, oh, those are crocodile tears. I watched that speech in person, and I have to say, I was very, very impressed, and I think a lot of us were quite moved by it. I did not see it in the least bit as being insincere. I think, having covered him now for several months, having been up close and spent time with him, I find him to be a very sincere guy. Now, that's not making any judgment about his politics. I'm not talking about where he stands on the issues. I'm talking about his sincerity. And I've spoken to guys in his security detail over the last several months, and they say, if he becomes mayor, he's going to work all the time. And that's how he is, in the campaign. That's what they said he's like in the campaign, that he just doesn't stop thinking, doesn't stop working, keeps trying to come up with ideas along the lines of his campaign planks, affordability. And a lot of people have said, well, he can't really get those things done. He's making false promises. Cuomo said that several times. And that, conceivably, Perhaps he can't. Also, perhaps he can, because as I pointed out this evening, several state lawmakers are saying to me, again, albeit Democratic state lawmakers, are saying that there is potential for at least some sort of compromise to get some of this stuff through in Albany after the first of the year, after Mamdani is sworn in, and he gets to work with his coalition of lawmakers. And now, obviously, as you know, the governor endorsed him, getting together with all those folks to see what it is they can actually do in enacting the affordability agenda, Sade.
It's interesting, NJ, and we have about 90 seconds left before we're going to reset. So a two-part question, if you will. I'm going to pull a play out of your playbook. A two-part question. One, do we know when he's going to come out? Do we have any anticipation on when that's going to happen? And then two, you've covered politics in this town for quite some time. Can you just put this in historical context for people watching this remarkable rise to where he is tonight?
Well, look, as I said, he went from obscurity, polling 1% in the polls, to now he's obviously going to win City Hall. I spoke with one of his top aides a few minutes ago, and I said, is he waiting for Cuomo to come out? And she said, you know what I think he's doing? He's writing the speech. I said, is he superstitious? He won't write it before the event? And she said, no. He just writes and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites. So, look, I expect him at any moment to come out.
We'll check back with you as we begin the 11 p.m. hour, but no doubt a historic rise, and we're watching it all play out. It's one thing to make social media videos and run a campaign. It is a much different thing to sit where he is about to sit in Gracie Mansion and be in charge of the nation's biggest city.
Yeah, he is going to be under a lot of pressure to deliver. He's going to need a lot of help in order to get some of these big ticket items through. We're going to have much more on this. Please join us next on Eyewitness News at 11. We'll be right back.
From the Associated Press, this is an Election Night 2025 update. Live from Washington, here is Meg Kennard.
Welcome back. Just to give you a recap of where we are at this hour, the Associated Press has declared Democrat Zohran Mamdani the winner of the New York City mayor's race. You've been seeing on your screen images coming into us from his election night headquarters there in New York. And we are now going to go there with AP correspondent Philip Crowther to give us a sense of what it's like on the ground as we wait for Mamdani to make remarks. Philip?
Yeah, and you can, of course, see the contrast right now in the boxes you have on your screen. One event, that's the one where I'm at. This is Zohran Mamdani's election night party. Is lively. There's obviously a celebratory atmosphere. There are occasional shouts of joy here. Maybe when a leading Democratic politician walks around, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman from New York, she is here, for example. David Hogg, vice president of the Democratic National Committee, is here as well. These are people who right now are giving interviews to the media, a huge number of media representatives here as well. So a very lively scene here in downtown Brooklyn. Very different in Manhattan. You can see those images right now as well. From Mr. Cuomo's headquarters, his election night party. Not that much of a party, of course, right now. Expectedly, the former governor of New York State, who ran in the Democratic primary against Zohran Mamdani and lost, and then ran again tonight in the mayoral election as an independent. Andrew Cuomo goes out of this race for mayor of New York as one of the losers, of course, along with Curtis Sliwa. He was the Republican candidate for mayor of New York City. He has already given his speech once it became clear that he was not going to win this election. That, of course, would have been an incredibly big surprise. What we are now waiting for here in downtown Brooklyn is, of course, the victory speech by Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old member of the New York State Assembly, who once upon a time, not that long ago, was definitely not the favorite to win this race and was very much an outsider. He has sprung a huge surprise. When you go back just a few months, the Democratic Party primary was in June, and just before that, well, pretty much no one gave him a chance of even becoming the candidate for the Democratic Party. Well, we now expect to see him on stage relatively soon to give his victory speech. As I mentioned, some stars of the left wing, if you will, of the Democratic Party are here. A big reaction certainly here for the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Remember that she campaigned with Zohran Mamdani along with Senator of Vermont Bernie Sanders. These two of the big supporters of Zohran Mamdani, both of course also describe themselves, as does Mamdani, they describe themselves as democratic socialists. We again are hearing some shouts of celebration here in the room. Maybe that is an indication that we're getting a little bit closer to the speech by Zohran Mamdani. I can tell you at this point that we have not been given any indication by the campaign exactly when he will be taking the stage. What we did have, though, was a very early race call by the Associated Press around 45 minutes after polls closed here in New York City at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That is when it became official that Zohran Mamdani was going to become the next mayor of New York City. He will be inaugurated in January. And the call came so early, in fact, that quite a few of his supporters who had been lining up outside to get into this venue hadn't entered yet. They entered to the news that their favorite candidate was going to become the next mayor of New York City. Generally, though, there is very much a celebratory atmosphere, not just here at the headquarters for Zohran Mamdani, but also in Democratic Party circles right now, with those two victories in the race for the governorship in Virginia and in New Jersey, and obviously here, the victory for Zohran Mamdani. Those are three very high-profile Democratic wins tonight here. Of course, for Zohran Mamdani, it's not a surprise that a Democrat wins in New York City. But for someone who describes himself as a democratic socialist, it is certainly a surprise, and something also that, of course, brought the ire of President Donald Trump. The White House has already commented on this victory by Zohran Mamdani with a meme that says that Donald Trump is your president. So the reactions coming in thick and fast. The most important one, of course, is going to be that of the candidate himself. Again, we expect Zohran Mamdani to be on stage.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
you're live as well.
Thank you, Philip. We really appreciate those updates from Mamdani's headquarters. And I wanted to ask you, what are you hearing about Andrew Cuomo and his performance tonight? Is there any indication of how supporters of his might be feeling? You mentioned his performance tonight as an independent candidate after losing the Democratic primary, but what do we expect to see or hear from him tonight?
Well, what you'd expect to hear, logically, would be a concession speech from the former governor of New York. That has not happened yet. You can see in the images, obviously, that Andrew Cuomo's election night party is not exactly
method that a state could choose in terms of adding or changing their maps, but at least he was also giving not even a tacit stamp of approval. I want to just interrupt myself to point out that on your screen, you are now seeing new images coming into us from California in the lower left quadrant. That is where we expect California Governor Gavin Newsom to be holding a news conference on Prop 50, which we've just been discussing. And there is also some movement in the upper right quadrant. That is where we are awaiting New York City mayoral race victor Zohran Mamdani to address the supporters at his campaign rally there in Brooklyn. We've been talking all night with our correspondent there on the scene, but we do see someone at the podium now, so we do expect that we'll be hearing from the candidate himself here shortly. So we'll keep our eyes on that on the screen and certainly bring you Zohran Mamdani's comments as soon as they begin. So, Sagar, thank you for this analysis that we've been discussing about these redistricting vote that we've seen tonight in California and the other places where we've seen it happening. But there are no other states that are at that same stage in terms of having what they've been doing in California. At least there's legislative debates, right? But nothing that's actually before voters.
Nothing that's come to fruition like this,
Right.
that has been presented to voters in and of itself, standalone in a special election, that has gotten anywhere near this type of, I mean, Barack Obama's 30-second video pushing for it a month ago, you know, raced through social media. So, you know, they brought out the star power for that, and getting back to what you said about former President Obama, relatively low-key, you know, kind of playing post-presidency like George W. Bush has, not getting involved,
Right.
not speaking out about a whole lot of things, unlike Donald Trump for those 4 years, very much like Joe Biden now. But, I mean, to give you a sense of what Obama has been like lately, he even pulled out one of the old greats when he was campaigning over the weekend in the governor's races: don't boo, vote. And the place went nuts.
Right.
Vintage
right.
2008, 2012 Barack Obama trying to get Democrats energized again, and I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that. What was that math again?
364 days.
364 days till
To
the
the
midterms,
midterms.
and we'll be back and do it all again.
Thank you. We'll set our calendars and set our clocks now. We are going to return you to that live video that we've been talking about, coming in from Zohran Mamdani's campaign election rally this evening. So we will leave you with those live images and be back with you soon.
So honored to work with you, learn from you, and support you as you have faced unprecedented scrutiny and at times ugliness and threats from our opponents. You have built a historic campaign, so please give them all a round of applause. And please join me in celebrating the person who has been Zohran's right hand from day one, whose deep commitment to our movement and care for our people has infused every part of this campaign from top to bottom, and without whom we would not be here tonight, Elvis Church. Movement with grace, curiosity, good humor, and thoughtfulness. And this race has been difficult. He has been the subject of attacks and threats, but he has truly risen above it all to give us hope. So please join me in giving Zohran, our friend, a round of applause. And there are too many supporters to name, so I want to speak to everyone directly. Please raise your hand if you have given to this campaign, whether that is time, labor, knocking a door, hosting an event, creating art. And if you are one of the tens of thousands, this is beautiful, and if you are one of the tens of thousands of people who contributed but cannot be with us tonight, this is for you as well. You have made history. You set unreachable goals and then exceeded them. You believed in this city and believed in each other. And you achieved something that people will speak of for decades to come. You led with kindness and compassion. And most importantly, during a time of despair and rising fascism, you decided to fight for someone that you don't know. So thank you. Friends, the scope of this campaign was truly unprecedented. We had hundreds of thousands of conversations with our neighbors and trained leaders who will help us deliver our agenda for the next 4 years. But this record-breaking program did not come out of nowhere. It was the product of years of organizing and leadership development by New York City GSA and so many of our movement partners. And we were so fortunate to be led on this campaign by someone who has been a part of this work from the beginning. She led Julia Salazar's groundbreaking campaign in 2018. And since then has been behind the scenes in so many of our or brought you joy, you have this person to thank. She is caring, wise, and deeply committed to our movement. And I am sure she is backstage losing her mind at being called out like this. But I need everyone here to please join me in giving her the longest and loudest round of applause, our organizing director, Tasha.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Thank you, everyone. I'm Tasha, and I've had the honor of being the field director on this campaign. I first crossed paths with Zohran in 2017 on a city council campaign for Khader El-Yateem in Bay Ridge. Zohran was the paid canvas manager, and I was volunteering on the campaign as a member of New York City Democratic Socialists of America. I don't think that we could ever have imagined that 8 years later, we would be here on election night for a mayoral campaign 104,000 volunteers strong. 104,000 volunteers. We love numbers, we love metrics, but I want to talk first about what's behind those numbers. Every number is, in a way, an act of bravery. Door knocking is not the easiest thing. For many, including myself, it takes a moment of bravery at the beginning, asking a stranger something about their lives and sharing something about yours. Sharing what you want to see in the world, it can be daunting. Thousands of people did it. And every time, every volunteer went to a door and talked to a stranger, they offered their vision to that stranger and invited that stranger to be a part of shaping their vision. We love strangers. Every door knock and every phone call is a statement of belief that politics is for all of us. This campaign and this city is all of ours to shape. I also want to say something about field leads. All of our canvases, for those who don't know, all of our canvases have been led by volunteers we call field leads. Many of them are here. Most led a shift every week, and some led a shift every week since December. And every time they led a canvas, and they were the ones welcoming new volunteers into our movement. They were the ones who helped inspire folks coming out to canvas for the first time. Without those 700 people who chose to step into leadership in an uncertain moment and try something new and scary, this field operation at this scale would not have happened. Those 700 people prove that leadership isn't about having all of the answers, it's about the willingness to step into the unknown and inspire others to imagine something better. So here are the numbers. Over 104,000 volunteers made over 4.4 million calls. At around noon today, a volunteer knocked our 3 millionth door. Over 700 field leads have led over 5,700 canvasses in 243 neighborhoods. 6,568 voters signed up to volunteer on the spot when they were canvassed by somebody. 8,389 voters signed up to volunteer when they were asked by a phone banker. These are unprecedented numbers. The bravery that you all have shown, that this field operation carried across all 5 boroughs, is going to transform our city. What all 100,400 of us have accomplished has rewritten the possibilities of mass democratic action. And it doesn't stop tonight. We all know that we won't stop at electing Zohran. We will continue to fight to bring the affordable of New York City to life. I am so excited to do that with all of you. And now I'm so honored to introduce the person you've been waiting to hear. We've worked for many years to bring about change in New York City that it so urgently needs. He's been a friend, and he is the next mayor of the greatest city on earth, Zohran Mamdani.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, mandate for a city we can afford. And a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an 1199 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX-33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less, with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorella LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. And deliver universal childcare across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
Speech for winning that mayoral contest, the top race that we've been following here all night long. On the lower right-hand side of your screen, you're also seeing images coming in from an election night watch party with Mamdani's supporters. And in the lower left-hand quadrant, a screen where we're waiting on California Governor Gavin Newsom to appear. He's been campaigning heavily on the Prop 50 issue that passed in his state tonight, and we expect to be seeing him at some point. But now we're going to go back to New York City, where Philip Crowther has been following the Mamdani campaign this evening, and he is going to give us his update from the ground there in Brooklyn now that we have heard the candidates speak. Philip?
Yeah, on stage now alongside Zohran Mamdani, and in fact leaving the stage here in downtown Brooklyn as we speak. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, alongside his wife, who has made very few appearances on the campaign trail, and his parents, all of them receiving an homage from Mamdani during his victory speech here in downtown Brooklyn. This celebration now coming to an end. His supporters will now slowly but surely leave this theater, but not after having listened to a very, very enthusiastic speech from Zohran Mamdani, during which he again made those promises that he has made on the campaign trail for frozen rent on rent-controlled apartments in New York City, for free childcare in New York City, and also free buses, all of those very popular themes of Zohran Mamdani's campaign for mayor of New York City. The biggest applause, maybe, the moments when Zohran Mamdani came out on stage, naturally. But maybe the biggest shouts of enthusiasm also here in this theater in downtown Brooklyn, the moment when Zohran Mamdani took on Donald Trump by name. We weren't necessarily expecting that, because Mamdani has been somebody who hasn't necessarily seen this as an election during which he had to go up against Donald Trump, despite the fact that he had been criticized at length by the president. But he here said that essentially this was the end of people like Donald Trump in New York City, members of what he calls the oligarchy, that the end of the likes of Donald Trump is happening in the city that saw him rise as well. He addressed Donald Trump directly here, knowing, in Zohran Mamdani's opinion, that the president was in fact watching this at the White House. He might well have done, because Donald Trump is a president who is very invested and very interested in this mayoral election here in New York City. A reminder also from Mamdani that the big change here in New York City is still to come. Of course, the inauguration of the mayor will be happening on the 1st of January, and that is when he says that a new era will begin for this city. He has celebrated the end of a political dynasty, in the words of Zohran Mamdani, still the 34-year-old member of the New York State Assembly and soon to be mayor of New York City. When he talks about the end of a political dynasty, he's talking about Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who lost to him in the Democratic primary in June and has lost to him again here tonight as an independent in this run for mayor of New York City. As we see the last few moments here of Zohran Mamdani's victory party at his election night party here in Brooklyn, we expect to hear news from another very important man tonight. That is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, on the night that Proposition 50 was voted through by the residents of California. We expect Gavin Newsom to be speaking soon, and we will be bringing you those images as soon as he takes the stage. In the meantime here, it's time for us to reflect on what will go down undoubtedly as a very successful night for Democrats indeed, with an expected win here in New York City for the mayor of the city, but also with victories in the races for the governorships in Virginia and New Jersey. Both of those pretty emphatic wins in the end for Democrats that were called pretty early as well, giving Democrats a lot of chances, a lot of time to celebrate. Of course, all of this capped off by the victory speech by Zohran Mamdani here in New York. It will be followed again very soon indeed by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who will be speaking about Proposition 50, and who of course also is somebody who might have presidential ambitions of his own. With that, we'll leave you here from downtown Brooklyn and go back to Washington, D.C. and Meg Kennard as we expect Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, to speak.
Thank you, Philip, for that recap of tonight in New York City and your analysis of Zohran Mamdani's historic win there in the nation's largest city. As Philip mentioned, we are still awaiting comments from California Governor Gavin Newsom at this hour. The Proposition 50 campaign that deals with redistricting in that state, aimed at adding Democratic seats to the congressional delegation, has passed tonight. This is something that Gavin Newsom has campaigned for, something he's been mentioning as he travels across the state and across the country. Newsom is expected to be among the Democrats competing for his Democratic presidential nomination in 2028, and I'm already along that campaign trail. So, Sagar, we can talk really briefly about what we heard from Mamdani and also maybe what we're expecting to hear from Newsom. This is kind of like the capstone to our election night coverage. But what was like your biggest takeaway from hearing Mamdani talk about his campaign and what he hopes to be accomplishing as mayor?
Reveling and saying that he's going to give the power back to the people of New York. He mentioned taxi drivers. He mentioned bodega owners. He mentioned aunties. He went up and down the line saying this was a mandate for change. We toppled a political dynasty before he went after Andrew Cuomo to a degree. It was the same message that we've been hearing, that power was concentrated, that it was for the rich New Yorkers. It wasn't for, again, the folks who owned the bodega or owned the other little corner store or drive the cab or work as nurses or whatever it might be. And he made it a point to list various ethnic groups, nationalities, right down the line. The question is, with all these promises that he's made that really electrified people and led to this just incredible rise that he's enjoyed, how does he now pull this off? Right? That's got to be the question that gets asked now. There's going to be a whole lot of work to do. I mean, he's talking about free city bus rides, free child care, government-run stores. How do you pay for that? Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, has been rejecting his pushes for higher taxes. That money's got to come from somewhere. So I think that's going to start being the question tomorrow is, okay, everybody bought into your idea. How do you do it?
How do you make it reality? And
that's the next step.
That's what we often hear when we're covering presidential campaigns and other campaigns across the country, campaign trail promises, but then what does that look like in reality? And is that something an executive can just wave a magic wand or sign an order and make happen? And
no, not without the money you can't, so
right.
That becomes the question.
Definitely. Now, as we're still awaiting Governor Gavin Newsom out in California, I just want to take stock of this evening, kind of take the big picture. We've seen certainly Democratic win in the New York City mayor's race. The Democratic-backed proposal in California was a win for them, as well as the two governor's races that we were following, New Jersey and Virginia. Taking stock of that and spinning forward to the midterms coming up next year, what do you consider is on the minds of Democrats and on the minds of Republicans as they're thinking about tonight and thinking about next year?
It has to give Democrats optimism because they swept everything big. I mean, in addition, there were some other ballot initiatives. We haven't even touched on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, where 3 Democratic justices who were up for what are called retention votes all won. Had they not, you could have had a whole lot of partisan roadblocks, for the next year in one of the biggest, most populous battleground states for the presidency. So that all bodes well. But if you look at this and say, okay, now there's a playbook. We can turn around our fortunes from 2024, and here's how we win in 2026. A few caveats. Limited states today, almost all of them were blue-leaning. That doesn't necessarily mean that works everywhere. And then you just have history that the president's party always takes a beating in off-year elections and always takes a beating in the midterms. So we even heard it from House Speaker Mike Johnson this morning, lowering expectations. So we think we're going to win all this? No. Do we hope we can? Yeah. But, they were I don't want to say writing it off, but not
expectation management, though.
yes,
is always
not projecting a whole lot of success. So,
right.
I mean, this will get spun any number of ways. The New York State GOP is already proudly saying Zohran Mamdani is now the face of the Democratic Party, and they do not mean that in a nice way. So we're going to see them seizing on that, saying, okay, this is the guy that they've put in the forefront. Is this what you want in 2026? I think we're starting to see the contours of that battle being drawn.
Right, absolutely. Sagar, as always, it has been a pleasure to spend this election night with you.
Where would we rather be?
Right here on set.
364 days.
Right here at the AP. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are still awaiting those comments from California Governor Gavin Newsom, and actually we see him taking the stage now. We will leave you with these live images coming in from California. Thank you for being part of our live stream coverage tonight. Good night.
For the Democratic Party, a party that is in its ascendancy, a party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels, from coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party, it was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. The victory that's punctuated with a sober reminder that it's not just the actions that Donald Trump has taken to federalize our guard, to begin the process of militarizing American cities, to intimidate free expression and speech by utilizing ICE and Border Patrol in American cities. But he also announced today, right when polls were opening, that this election was rigged. That this election was rigged. Of course, those are familiar words. It's exactly what Donald Trump said after January 6th, that day of love, where he tried to light democracy on fire. He tried to wreck this country, and he called in to the Secretary of State in Georgia, calling up for 11, 12,000 votes, just like he called Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to those 5 seats. He said this election was rigged, and he's moving to look for criminal prosecution and investigations at the Department of Justice. He is not screwing around. So tonight, I'm proud, but I'm very mindful and sober of the moment we are living in. Donald Trump does not believe in fair and free elections, period and full stop. This is not complicated, and it's self-evident to anyone paying attention. You start to stack up all of these actions that continue to this moment and will continue in moments to come. If you think I'm exaggerating, consider his announcement just a few weeks ago to send rapid response teams all across the United States, in all 50 states, tens of thousands of members of the military prepared for urban deployment. A preview of things to come. But back to this state. Our state of mind was resolute. Our state of mind was resolved to stand firm and to stand tall, to not be intimidated, to not be humiliated, to not fall prey to cynicism, to not fall prey to fear and the anxiety of someone that believes in only one thing, shock and awe, to intimidate and exhaust us. But we're seeing all across this country, 7 million people strong, standing up, not just for themselves, but for each other and for these enduring and historic principles of our founding fathers. And I'll end on that. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the best of Roman Republic, the best of Greek democracy. This fundamental notion of a system of checks and balances, of popular sovereignty, the rule of law, Mr. President, the rule of law, not the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on people. The sobriety of this moment, what's at stake. Tonight, as I said, is an extraordinary moment for our party, but again, it's an extraordinary moment affirming those principles. Our founding fathers did not live and die to see the kind of vandalism to this republic and our democracy that Donald Trump is trying to perpetuate. And so my call tonight, in the spirit of Whitman, we talked about the powerful play, goes on. We all must contribute a verse. And so we need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York, in Illinois, in Colorado. We need to see other states with their remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026. And let me make this crystal clear. We can de facto end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it the minute Speaker Jeffries gets sworn in as Speaker of the House of Representatives. It is all on the line, a bright line in 2026. And so I want to thank everybody that stood up, not just for our democracy, but stood up for those that have feel bullied and intimidated, stood up for this notion of co-equal branches of government and a system of checks and balances. And I want to thank my wife, who reminds me every single day that this is about those that feel alone, those that feel isolated, those that feel an anxiety and a stress that they never could have imagined in their lives. This was about saying to them, we have your back, we see you, you matter, we care. And I'll just say this, I'm confident as we move forward into 2026 in this country, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
What's the lesson for other Democrats of tonight? Do you think President Trump will hear the message?
You learned about